Bonsoir, bienvenue tout le monde, bonne année, welcome everybody, Happy New Year to everyone that's here with us tonight in the room and to those online. Bienvenue aux séances ordinaires du Conseil municipal de la Ville de Westmount pour lundi le 13 janvier 2025. Welcome to the regular Municipal Council meeting for the City of Westmount for Monday, January 13th, 2025. I hope that everybody had a happy holiday and a happy start to their new year. I'd first just like to, I think there's lots of comments and updates. I'd first like to just, as I watch what's happening in LA, as someone who is very involved in the municipal world, I think my council and I would, or the council and I would join in just thanking all the first responders that are dealing with that. And it is, it's incredibly shocking to watch and to watch the scene of how they're managing it, and to also feel incredible pride in certainly the Quebec planes that are there helping the situation. So while they won't hear this, I certainly wish all those residents of that area well. And again, a thank you to the first responders. So a couple things, I think, before everybody goes into their updates. I suspect many are here to discuss or to ask questions tonight about the possible Southeast project and developments and the public consultations that we are having or that we're in the midst of doing in that area. And I just want to say a thank you to everybody who's been involved. There have been hundreds of participants in both in the public consultations in Victoria Hall that we hosted, in the online feedback that's been going on throughout the year, in the beginning of the stakeholder meetings that began in April 2024, which sort of kicked it all off, which is when, before we met the residents, we did meet the stakeholders of the area. So people like Atwater Library, Dawson College, Alexis Neon, some of the merchants associations, things like that. So if you're asking for what the results are of the survey and the feedback, we're not going to be able to provide you those because many had been collected online and lots of residents are still writing into us. So stay tuned for when we're able to make those public, and we will, and this discussion will continue. And we've definitely heard from many residents on this, many with lots of differing opinions, but what we heard consistently throughout the public consultations was that there was great concern for the state of St. Catherine Street. So I think we all share that concern, and I certainly know on council we all share that concern. So without further ado, I think we're going to start with Councillor Kez.
Thank you.
From the Southeast.
Happy New Year. I have just a little update regarding parking permit system. The city will be introducing a new parking permit system, eliminating the need for physical stickers. So there will be no more stickers. The same technology as those used by handheld license plate readers will be used to manage the resident parking permit system. Under the new system, residents will be able to purchase and manage their online parking permits with parking rights automatically linked to their vehicle license plate number. As a result, residents will no longer need to replace stickers, wait for permits by mail, or visit the parking office in person. This is not in place yet, so for further details are on the way on the new system and will be available in the coming months. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Aronson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Happy New Year, everybody. Just one brief reminder, as we've come to the end of the holiday period, if you still have your tree or Hanukkah bush up, now is the time to take it down and put your decorations away, because the city will be picking up our trees or Hanukkah bushes on next week. We did it this past week. We'll do it again the week of January the 13th, so starting today at your normal green waste, that is to say, like the garden waste pickup schedule. If you're not sure when garden waste is picked up in your area, you can go to our website, and there's a very comprehensive interactive map that's on the environmental section of the website that will tell you exactly where it is or exactly when it is that you can put out your tree to be collected by the city. If it's not collected this week, unfortunately, at that point, if you can't put them outside anymore to be collected by the city after this week, you'll have to take them down to an eco center yourself, or keep them up until spring, chop them up and put them out with your garden waste in the spring. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Gallery.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Bonne année. Good evening, everyone. Happy New Year. I have a short update. Many of you know that we had to replace our cooling towers at the rec center. I just want to inform you all that the work was completed ahead of schedule and the 2 rinks reopened on December 29th. So all activities at the WRC have resumed as scheduled. Reminder to everyone to get your 2025 facility membership card. It's the 2024 one will no longer be valid, and you can do that online or in person. And lastly, all our outdoor skating rinks are open. All the information's on our website, so please check the condition of the ice before you go, because with snowfall and other things and temperature changes, the ice changes. So that's it from me. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Councillor Bostock.
Good evening, everybody. More of a logistical update today. It's winter. We've got snow. It's not a lot of snow, thankfully. But if you are shoveling your walkway and putting snow onto the sidewalk, you are limiting the mobility of our residents who are walking on the streets. So please put your snow either on your own property or push it all the way out to the street so that it gets collected by the street sweepers. Also to remind you to put your car a little bit further away from the curb as to avoid getting any damage done to your vehicles from the snow removal trucks as they go by on the sidewalks, because the sidewalks are narrow in some areas. So just to keep an eye out for that. And as always, please remember to look at the signs before you go to bed to make sure that snow removal is not happening at 7 in the morning, so that the lovely sound of honking horns to ask you to move your car don't wake everybody else up. Otherwise, enjoy your winter and walk safe.
Thank you. Councillor Peart.
Thank you, Madame Mairesse. Bonne année, Happy New Year. Just one brief announcement, and it pertains to the Claremont Reconstruction Project. As many of you know, we've been through a long consultation period. We've had 2 public consultation sessions, and now you will soon see the fruits of that effort, that collective effort. So on Thursday, January 30th, as of 5:30 p.m. in Victoria Hall, we invite you all to come and see the almost final version, or call it 95%, 99% final version that will be put into place and executed next year. It is not it's not a presentation. Sorry, it's not a session. It's just an open house. So the panels will be there on the board. There will be some staff. There will be some consultants there too, if you have any questions, and you'll have a chance to see the preferred option, the final option, and you will, if you have any questions, you can post them there. So, like I said, it's an information session. It's not a consultation session. The boards are virtually final at this point in time. But I'd like to think, and we all think, we've seen them. We think you will be quite impressed. So I invite you, like I said, Thursday, January 30th at 5:30 p.m. at Victoria Hall.
Yeah, it's a more open house format, similar to exactly like Forden was, where if you come at 6, you haven't missed a speech or a presentation or anything like that, and you can work through the room at your own pace, and there'll be staff and engineers and council as well there to answer any questions. Mr. Shami.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Ladies and gentlemen, just as Commissioner of Hydro Westmount, I wanted to shout out to reduce electricity consumption during periods of extreme cold. We've had recent very cold evenings and days. It's a little bit better today, but Hydro Westmount's network is subject to high demand during these periods of extreme cold. This high demand can lead to circuit overloads and power interruptions. For these reasons, when temperatures hit -18, Hydro Westmount asks our residents and customers to reduce electrical consumption. We recommend that you use appliances, your home appliances outside peak hours, and it makes sense. do your laundry, use the washing machine, dishwasher at times that are not when we're all using them. It's smart thinking, it's thinking about today and tomorrow, and I think it's an important for us to shout out and remind folks. As well, with the cold weather, always look out for those who may be alone, who might need to be comforted and reminded that we're there for them. And as the mayor mentioned, to our friends in Los Angeles, it just shows how the world has changed with climate change, and how at the speed of these fires and what the destruction has caused, how preparedness, and we have a moral and social obligation and responsibility to do our utmost, and as the mayor said, send our hope and love and support to our friends in California. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chamy. Councillor Roux.
Merci, Madame la mairesse. Alors, bonne et heureuse année à tout le monde. Je vous souhaite beaucoup de santé, beaucoup de bonheur en priorité, puis le reste, il y a toujours moyen de s'arranger. As usual, there's a lot going on at the library and at Victoria Hall. 2025 will be no different than the other years. I invite you to go because if I list everything that's going on, we'll be here all night and there's other things to do. But please go look at what's happening, and especially at the new studio, the Makerspace. There's something for every generation and a lot of things for us to learn and have fun doing. There's an author event, Church of Books, on Wednesday, January 19th. That's with authors Michelle Siba and Daniel Allen Cox. So join us for a conversation between an ex-Jehovah's Witness and an ex-Pentecostal, where we'll explore how reading literature can shake up fundamentalist ways of thinking. Also, on Saturday, February 2nd, for James Joyce's birthday, kick off the Irish cultural season in Montreal. Join us to discover what other days are celebrated in the Irish calendar. Local personalities such as Colleen Curran, Peggy Curran, and others will be there to present readings appropriate to each celebration. This is in collaboration with Festival Bloomsday Montreal. At the gallery, there's a new exhibit starting this Thursday with the works of Bethany Leblanc and Joel Novak. So I invite you to the vernissage that will start at 6 on Thursday night. And if you can't make it, the exhibit is on until February 14th. There is a special screening on Saturday, January 18th of The Third Man. So a special screening of A Classique Noir starring Orson Welles and directed by Carol Reed. There's also on January 28th at 2 p.m. at Victoria Hall, Rue will be shown. So it's the story of a hazardous journey of a wealthy family fleeing from Vietnam to Quebec in 1975 after the fall of Saigon. So it's based and inspired on Kim Thuy, who's an award-winning author, which I'm sure you all know story. So I'll leave you with that. And as I said, please go check online to see all there is. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup. Councillor D'Amico? No? Okay, so we will now move to the first question period. We have some questions that have been submitted online, but first we will do the questions that are in the room. And we're beginning at 7:18. Welcome.
Frank Philpott, 466 Claremont. Madam Mayor, Council, and fellow citizens, my first subject of discussion is 500 Claremont, yet again. In 2017, when the committee was requesting a derogation for the construction of 500 Claremont, the chair of the committee stressed the importance of protecting the 30 trees on the property.
I assume you're referring to the PAC committee?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
However, in September of last year, 2024, Westmount authorized the cutting of 5 huge trees on the property, which I objected to at the time. Well, after it was done, I objected to. However, December of last year, a few weeks ago, another 10 trees were cut. So now half of the trees of the original trees have been cut. And so this is the photo of the situation at the beginning. I don't know if you can see it on the camera or not. Anyway, this is the situation before the trees were cut. And this is the situation after the trees were cut. And you can see that now very easily on Claremont Avenue. So 10 trees are gone. Half the trees that were there are gone. And I have a question resulting from this, is how does Westmount plan to replace those trees?
I believe all of those trees did, it is unfortunate that they had to come down after, and they did receive permits to take down those trees, which would have been evaluated with our arborists and I believe our engineering team. And it is unfortunate, but I think it was deemed necessary in order to access the site safely. I don't know if you have any more information on that.
So,
I believe that I believe they will be replanted. I can't give you a planting map, but I think you may be, I think the administration had responded to you on that one. But I'll let Councillor Peart if he has any questions on that, or any comments on that.
yeah, so thank you, Mr. Philpott. I certainly sympathize with you when we see trees that are felled, and sometimes it's unexpected and sometimes it is expected. In this case, when it's not a commitment, but when at the time of the review by the Planning Advisory Committee, that was very early in the process. Now, what happens though with the construction, once the final plans are submitted for the building permit, which is different from the approval permit, which is upstream, when it comes time to the building permit, there is a provision in our bylaws that foresees permitting the felling of trees within 3 meters of a construction line. So those trees in question fell within the 3 meters of the construction line, so they were eligible for being cut down. But as the DG has indicated, the developer has made indications that trees will be replanted on the site.
The situation is that there are 128 windows facing south from 500 Claremont. They're not built yet, but 128. And they are looking into our bedrooms, our backyards, and our gardens. It's completely incredible that this should happen in Westmount. And the trees were our only shield, of which 50% are left. We're not happy.
Okay.
But I have
Thank you
another
for your
question.
Okay.
Follows on from that. The Atwater Library and the proposed derogation for the 25-story building. In view of the unreliability of Westmount's promises at the start of a project, I think Westmount taxpayers should be concerned about agreeing to a 25-story building next to the Atwater Library. But that's my view.
Okay.
Please let me know what you plan to do about that.
Well, at this point, as we had noted earlier, we are getting community feedback and differing opinions. Maybe you do or don't know, it's currently zoned at 10 stories on that corner lot that's next to the Atwater Library, and the rest of the street is 7 stories. There's no building permit being granted for a 25-story building. That was part of a visioning exercise and had been part of a lot of feedback from residents that they would be comfortable seeing a mirror or a copy of the heights that are on the north side of the street. If you don't share that opinion, that is probably shared by many people in this room. And we welcome that feedback. So thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want to add anything to that?
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council, and Happy New Year.
Welcome, Mr. Fretz.
Okay, so I was at the,
Sorry, that they need your
oh,
name.
yeah, yeah.
I know your name, but they need your name in the recording.
John Fretz. You're absolutely correct. We need to have these formalities. So I was at the consultation last week, and I looked at the plans. My question to you is, have you made a demographic study of how many people can fit into the south, that project down there? I mean, obviously, our schools can't accept that many more people. Our services are topped up. Any activities that we have, any fields that we would like to have in order to play are hard to get. So the question is, have you made a demographic study that tells us, and you want kids, you want families, you want kids, how many kids can come and live in their area, and how many other adults can live there? And that will determine a lot about how the project is constructed, wouldn't it?
So thank you for your question. Thank you for your feedback and for participating. I know you participated in the public consultations at Victoria Hall. I think you're asking a question I can't answer in terms of what the exact number is. What I do know is Westmount's population has declined. It's one of two cities across the CMM whose population has declined. We do know, I don't think anyone can deny that there is a housing crisis in this country. We know that surface parking lots are underutilized space. We know that St. Catherine Street is not the street that we want it to look like that or feel like that or have the activity like that on that street. So I can't give you the exact number, but I can tell you that our population has declined over the years, and I can tell you our commercial sector is severely hurting, and that we know the populations have grown all over the place, but they have not grown in Westmount.
Thank you,
Add
yes.
anything to
But,
that?
yes, sorry.
Sorry, I hear quite frequently the project, the 25-story project at the corner. There is no project. We are in the visioning stage. There's been no application for a project, a building at the corner. It could be potentially a apartment building. It could be an office building. We are not at that stage of granularity where we are going lot by lot and saying this is what it's going to be. We are at a very high level analysis of the entire sector. What LeMay has proposed at this point in time is at that corner, something higher, up to maybe in the 80 meter range, but we're at the stage right now where we have a proposal on the table, and we've invited everybody to comment on that. The people, those who attended the in-person consultation at Victoria Hall in November, provided their comments on the proposal in its entirety, and since then we've been receiving a steady stream of commentary on the proposal. But I just there's no imminent project at the door on the other side of the lane of the Atwater Library.
Thank you. All I'm saying is that before we can move on, we should know what we're targeting. I mean, our population may be declining, but what sector is declining? I see a lot of elderly people, moving out. I see a lot of kids moving in. So I don't think we can make these generalizations without knowing more, and it really is kind of sociology 101, isn't it? You've got X number of buildings, you've drawn them on a map. How many people can you bring in and yet maintain the high values that we have? I mean, it seems to me that you have to do that as part and parcel before you start drawing whatever it is.
I mean, you want to talk about, our population was 6,000 more.
No, well, a long time ago, and
Yeah.
50 years ago, we were at 28,000 and climbing. And there was a large fear that, not fear, but at least a concern that it was going to continue at that trajectory. And that number's been declining ever since. And as the mayor says, I think last year, or the 2021 census was the first time that we dropped below 20,000. We're just a little bit below the 20,000 mark. And as the mayor said, it's the only one it's one of the two municipalities on the island which is currently declining.
Within the CMM.
Within the CMM. No, okay, possibly. But also interesting, and because you bring up a great point about the demographics across the community. Another interesting tidbit about the statistics for the 2021 census is above Sherbrooke, we have there's a statistic. It's called the empty bedroom statistic, where because the families are getting smaller and because our residents are getting older, there's more empty nesting that's happening. And so above Sherbrooke, there are a lot of empty bedrooms. In theory, and it's always in theory, many people who are in Westmount stay here for a long time and want to stay here for as long as they possibly can. And once they've outgrown their home, it's conceivable that many residents would like to downsize, but downsize in Westmount. Maybe that housing looks like, I don't know what that housing looks like, but it might be a condo, it might be a 2-bedroom condo, it might be a 3-bedroom condo, but we are not at that level of granularity here. What we are doing is we are zooming out, and we are looking at the sector from Dorchester all the way up to de Maisonneuve. We've got very large public lots which the city has owned and have been vacant since 1968 as parking lots, and we're saying there must be a better use for this land. We have the current state of St. Catherine Street, which has been in a steady decline. The last time there has been new construction in that sector was 1979, when what was then the Visa Processing Center. The only other time before that was 1977, when the RCMP building was built. There has been no attention, no construction in that area for 50 years. It's a long time. And during that time, the area has suffered a steady decline, and it seems to have accelerated in the past few years. So currently, that strip is zoned, as the mayor has said, 7 stories, 10 stories at the corner. We had a project in 2017, a project that went through the approvals process, a project that was issued a construction permit, and most importantly, a project that was issued a demolition permit. That demolition was carried out, and yet still, no construction filled that void. To the point that the developer forfeited $1.4 million because it still wasn't worth rebuilding in that space. So that building was a 7-story on one side of the building, and it's 10 stories on the other side of the building. And since then, there's been no activity whatsoever. So clearly, the market is telling us loudly after a decade, because in 2014, they made a quite reasonable assumption that upzoning on that block would make a difference. And I fault nobody for making that decision. But
No, I voted in favor of that decision.
yeah, it was the right decision at that time, but over time, it has not proven to be fruitful. So at some point, we're going to have to recognize that the status quo is not working, and we need to make a change if we want St. Catherine Street to be better than it is today.
And then we'll move on to the next question. That is what we hear overwhelmingly from the population. It's maybe not those in attendance tonight, but we have heard that consistently, and we heard it consistently at the public consultations, and that was incorporated into what was then presented. And we hear it, whether it's the owners or the people who work in the area or the people who live in the area, that they have an expectation that certainly that part of St. Catherine Street is much, much better than it currently is. So as Councillor Peart was saying, there is no building project that's in the queue waiting to be waiting to be, given that we're not doling out any permits tonight. There are no permits on tonight's agenda, by the way, because the first PAC meeting is tomorrow. But it is important to look at several factors. It is a transit-oriented area. It's above a metro. It's next to a cégep. It's about 3 blocks from a university. It's got significant height on one side of the street, but it's incredibly important for it to integrate well within the community. It's incredibly important to respect the heritage buildings that are there, like Atwater Library. Respect them, protect them. We have high expectations. This council has high expectations of this, but I think everyone around the table agreed on this, that something had to be done, and this is a process that allows for citizen input and consultation and becomes a citizen-driven. But it's not all citizens share the same point of view on this. So, and we recognize that. But we knew this wasn't going to be easy. No one thought, let's have a super chill couple months and propose some major changes in the southeast of the city. So, but it's important. I don't think anyone. Nobody would say that this wasn't important. So thank you, Mr. Fretz.
I hope it'll be an ongoing discussion because I actually disagree with something that you're saying, but thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Next question.
John Breslau, Grosvenor Avenue.
Welcome.
Thank you, ma'am. Before I start, I'd like actually to respond to Conrad Pert's statement, which is quite
It's
interesting.
question period. So do
Yeah,
you have
I
a
am,
question?
but just a second. It was too interesting not to come back to. The statistic that you gave us, the fall in 6,000, is hugely interesting, but you have to take it in a 20-year view. It's my fault. I'm the generation, the baby boom generation. And the baby boom generation has skewed...
You guys are getting blamed for everything, by the way.
Absolutely, you know the feeling.
Yeah.
Me too. The baby boom generation has changed things amazingly. And in Westmount, one of the components is it's so good to live in Westmount that when the kids leave, the old folks, me, stay put. And because we're in Westmount, we have a fair ability to stay put in a house that's much too big for us, type thing. That has resulted in exactly what you stated, a reduction in the total number of people and the above Sherbrooke empty bedroom syndrome. That will change over the next 10, 15, 20 years.
Significantly.
Significantly.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to die out. I promise you I'll die out. And at that stage, we will have a totally different demographics. And John's perfectly correct. You have to look at the demographics here. And at that stage, what we need on St. Catherine Street, and perhaps on Dorchester as well, may well be quite different from what we are looking at now. We've seen the example of the decision 60 years ago to kill 138 houses. Terrible, terrible decision.
Yep. I think we all agree with that.
Yeah, you don't do decisions just because we think we really should do it now, especially in the context of changing demographics and, by the way, climate change. But yes, thank you for that. But let's keep our eye on the ball. We have to have, especially a council, a viewpoint that is more than 3 years, more than 10 years.
Certainly agree with you on that.
25, 30 years.
So thank you for your commentary on that. And
I will now stop.
But just back to the demographics, obviously that plays heavily into this. But I mean, I've lived this reality deeply. Several of my colleagues on council are living this reality deeply in that where, as much as I think you're well and vital and living in your home, there may be a point where you can't live in your home. And that's important to have that as an option as well in the community. And if you have a loved one or are caring for a parent or a loved one who does need to be, whether it's living in Manoir Westmount with, sort of autonomous living, but a senior's residence, or whether it's living in a place like the Liz, which is an incredible formula of independent living and other services that you may need. There needs to be a lot of, especially for an aging population, a lot of choices out there. And right now, it's very, very difficult to find that right place. I I know, my mom is our newest resident of Westmount. She's living in my mom is living in Manoir, Westmount. That's not an easy and widely accessible, you know, there's wait lists for these things. And I think more options is a good thing. And if you, I spent a lot of time in ERs in the past couple years with my dad, and all the ER doctors and nurses will tell you it's full of people that should have been in a different type of housing than they were, than they currently are. But anyways, all that to be said, I think many options for many different things. For 0 to 120 is a good thing.
Yeah, and it's hard leaving a house with all the memories.
Yes.
It really reduces your lifespan.
Yeah, trust me, I have a front row seat to this right now. I know how hard it is.
For the moment, I'll trust you.
Okay, now
Madam
on to
Mayor,
your question.
Members of council and staff, may I wish you a happy new year.
Thank you.
In 2017, the city commissioned Clément Demare, a highly respected architect, urban planner, project manager, management professional, to provide direction for the development of the southeast sector. Demare's career included 15 years with the Ville de Montréal, where he was deputy director of urban planning, and assistant director of housing and urban development. He was also served as president of both the LHC and PAC. So he's a local
and
guy.
Continues to be a member of the PAC.
The AGGLE report, submitted in 2018, recommended increased densification and greenification in this sector, but without huge increases in building height. This report, by the way, has since been unlinked from the city's website. I have no idea why.
I don't think that's recent, but
On the article that you had, that you gave in 2018,
Yeah.
It is crossed out and it is delinked.
okay. Yeah, no, I think that report has not been on the, but yes, I know which letter you're
where we are.
speaking of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Unlike the LeMay report, the AGGLE report was well received, probably because of the expertise of the mayor as an urban planner and not just an architect. As such, the mayor recognized that community support is essential for any urban development plan. Without community support, there will be no clarity. Without clarity, there's no certainty, and without certainty, there will be no development. I promise you. Consequently, Madam Mayor, after Council has seen and analysed the public comments to the LeMay recommendations, and if it becomes clear that there is negligible support for a plan that is so, if I may say so, antithetical to the values held by the citizens of Westmount, will you commit to declaring the LeMay report inconsequential and supporting a plan such as the AGGLE report, which is at least relevant to Westmount values?
So that's a very long.
1.5 minutes, I chimed it.
No, I mean, there's several elements to your question. I will try and address some. But just to clarify, the AGGLE report did recommend in it to use the PPU tool as a process to garner community input. The AGGLE report was a very different framework than what we are doing right now. It did recommend us to do this PPU type PPU consultation, which is what we are doing. This is a framework. We are looking for citizen feedback. We have gotten lots of citizen feedback. Not all of it's negative. I can assure you, not all of it is negative. We hear from all sorts of people. Some of them may not be in the council chamber tonight, but we hear from all sorts of people. So the AGGLE report had some great elements in it, like really great elements. And the time, at the time, one of the decisions that had been made by council was to concentrate on St. Catherine Street. One of the significant projects for St. Catherine Street was the Dawson College expansion. If you have been in Dawson College, I would encourage you all to go into Dawson College in the middle of a day and see the unbelievable tight spaces that are going on in a cégep of that size. and how the government, well, we all know why the government canceled it. But they were going to be the anchor of St. Catherine Street. They were going to expand onto St. Catherine Street. And so we spent a long time waiting for that project to happen, waiting, it had been committed to by 2 successive governments. When that was canned by the current government, that is when we decided to take the recommendations to go with the PPU process, and then that began out of that. So there's great elements of the Agile report. The firm that did it, certainly, but it was a very different process. There weren't lengthy public consultations and all that. So, yes, thank you for your, I don't know.
But there weren't 25-story buildings either.
There were 15 stories, I think the recommendation was, yeah.
Anyway, so that's
But
my
there
comments.
no like permit process or anything like that, but the recommendation certainly was for some height on St. Catherine. Thank you. Next question?
Let's add one small tidbit. Even when Dawson was hoping or proposing to come join us on St. Catherine Street, they were asking for more height than what was zoned.
It is interesting because Concordia did exactly the same process of expanding outside.
You need to speak into the microphone so it gets recorded.
Concordia did exactly the same thing of expanding outside the core campus
Yeah.
into, and that as a PPP or whatever,
PPU, yeah.
a public-private enterprise.
You mean the
Yeah,
PPP,
PPP.
yeah.
I thought it was SPP that you were doing. Anyway, PPP is an idea, perhaps it's a health center, perhaps it's an expansion of an education center. These sort of concepts become clear, again, as the politics in Quebec City and as the population change.
Thank you for your comments. Next question.
Bonsoir, je m'appelle Patrick Bernard. Mon adresse est 251 Melville. J'ai 2 courtes questions pour la mairesse et le conseil. So I have 2 short questions. The first one is a citizen / layman's question. There's proposals for borrowing money. Is anyone here able to tell me tonight exactly what the existing deficit is for Westmount and its relationship, its rapport, with the borrowings that are anticipated almost immediately? What is the deficit, and what's the relationship to the borrowings that will take place?
I'll begin, and then I'm sure Councillor D'Amico will happily weigh in as well. As I'm sure you noted, because I'm sure I know you follow our budget process. This year, we have no shortage of infrastructure issues within our city. I mean, one could even call it almost crisis levels in terms of the amount of work that we need to do. We cannot afford to do the amount of work that we absolutely need to do, certainly in our priority 1 projects that really are absolutely necessary, whether that's road rebuilding, water, upgrading. We have serious hydro expenses this year that have to be done, and we know any of these deferring any more of these projects, we know that they will just be more costly. So we have had to shift for what we hope is a shorter term. We hope we don't have to do this level of work forever, but we do need to do it now. And none of these are particularly ribbon-cutting projects in terms of what we are rebuilding 2 streets significantly and redoing a significant part of Sherbrooke Street. Councillor D'Amico, do you want to get more into the numbers side of things?
My question is about the numbers. I'll add something about the work
I don't have the numbers right in front of me, so
No,
I'll
you told me about the work that needs to be done, and I know it needs to be done here
Yeah.
and elsewhere. So I'm interested in the numbers, please.
Unfortunately, I don't have the deficit numbers. I have the operating budget numbers.
Okay, we will send you the exact number. I don't want to give you the
Tell
wrong
us what you have, please, Councillor D'Amico.
Okay.
of what we're borrowing for this year.
Well, the operating budget is interesting, too.
But it is a shift, you're right. It is a shift away from the pay-as-you-go method because we are...
But I didn't say that. All I asked
But it is a
was-
shift.
Okay, that's what you want to say. That wasn't my question.
Okay,
My question
so
was
I don't have
about-
the numbers in front of me.
Okay,
I do not have the numbers also. I have the budget numbers. But the comment I can make is, maybe your question is, should we have increased taxes instead of
No,
borrowing?
I didn't say that. Please, ladies and
We
gentlemen.
will send you the
this is
number.
madness.
We'll provide
I
you the
asked
We'll
if
provide
you
you
could
the number.
supply the numbers. And the answer I got back is that, no, you can't supply the numbers. So you should. You should have the numbers at your fingertips, okay? Obviously.
Great.
Now, the
Okay.
second question is as follows. Because I did reporting of a sort, municipal reporting at various levels over the last decade, I went down to City Hall when Valérie Plante first became mayor. Then I went to the borough meetings of Ville-Marie, and I came here. My theory was that you can only understand a city by looking at the various levels of decision-making. Recently, I had a conversation with someone who's well-known to council here, whose name I will not mention, but I actually was making an argument for you folk. I was saying I think all cities, certainly on the island of Montreal and Canada generally, are under tremendous pressure now of various sorts. And we see it everywhere, in all sorts of ways. The other person I was talking to was more critical of this question of budget. So I'm not saying that a deficit is a bad thing. I just wanted to know exactly what it is. My second question is about Cabot Square. So in this history of peregrination, municipal peregrination, I went to Ville-Marie borough meetings, and I watched what happened with Cabot Square. Cabot Square was a disaster in terms of planning. Valérie Plante and her staff could never get hold of what was happening there. Architecturally speaking, the building that's standing there is an abortion. It's a very, very bad, poor building. But all the things that were supposed to happen basically never did happen. So rather than make it a false question, I was going to say, well, are you aware of this? I know that you're all aware of what a mess Cabot Square has been, okay? So in terms of Westmount's planning, the height of buildings there, the way they've been put up, the methods that were used in order to erect those buildings, the relationships between the City of Montreal and the developer, all of that is an example of what not to do, without question.
I do want to answer the question. So in my letter that's on the website, the number I can give you is, as planned in the 2024 Capital Works Program, a debt of $7.7 million was contracted in December of 2024, and the first principal payment of the new loan is due in 2025.
Okay, thanks a lot.
The total amount, we will get you the total amount.
Yeah, okay,
This is
thanks
the
very
amount.
much. Will you communicate that to me by email, or?
Yes,
Okay,
yes, we shall.
I'd really appreciate that.
My pleasure.
Thanks a lot.
And I agree with you in terms of, so we call it the children's development. I think when we refer to Cabot Square, we are actually referring to the square. So just so we're talking about the same thing, I'm assuming you're talking about the development. There's many, many lessons to be learned there, of which we have followed very closely. Lots of great promises were also made to us, not just in terms of social housing.
Actually, I know you know a lot about it.
Yes, I do know a lot about it, and was promised by 2 successive mayors that there would be an elementary school in that site, and there was not.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
thank you for your feedback.
Okay, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Et bonne année alors.
Merci beaucoup. Next question.
Good evening, Richard Dufour from Chemin Anwath. To the mayor and to fellow councillors. I'm asking again a question related to a hopeful revision or updating of the what I consider to be, and I think most people consider to be, our outdated building and zoning bylaws. Just a little bit of historical perspective on that. In 2011, there was a consultation that I took part in at the time that Madame Joanne Poirier was the Director of Urban Planning. And there was some feedback given by many people, myself included. Some of the recommendations were initiated and I think passed. And there was a promise that much more was forthcoming. That was in 2011. About a year and a half ago or so, I contacted Councillor Pert and asked him more questions about that, and he assured me that somebody had been hired full-time to look into this, and that, with it is understandably quite a big project, but again, that this was going to be forthcoming. In 2008, 2009, I found out recently, doing some research, that the city had hired somebody by the name of Joshua Wolf, who was a consultant to put together some proposals in terms of how Westmount could be more environmentally and sustainable. What measures could help Westmount be more environmental and sustainable. And there were a whole series of recommendations. And I don't know how many of them actually were passed. I don't even know if current council is aware of this report that was done for 2008. I was honored to be chosen to be part of the relatively newly formed Environmental and Sustainability Advisory Committee, which I participated for several sessions. And during those sessions, we unanimously, and when I say unanimously, it's important to know that there were 4 residents on that committee, and there were 2 councillors. And when I say unanimous, it includes the 2 councillors who adopted or proposed 3 what were very simple measures that we thought City Council would act upon. And it was a test to see how serious Council would be about the work of our
I would encourage you to get
committee.
to your question part.
I'm getting there. I'm not at a minute and a half yet.
I think you might be.
Yeah? Okay.
But-
Now I lost my train of thought. But anyway, so we had three recommendations that were proposed, and those recommendations, we were informed by Councillor Aronson, were refused for 3 reasons. One, they were deemed to be premature. They were lacking in research or unfounded. And third, what I thought was very surprising, was outside of the committee's mandate. I have since resigned from that committee because I was disappointed, disillusioned by what I consider to be a lack of seriousness or initiative on the City Council. I'm still going to continue advocating for these, and that's why I'm here tonight. So my question is, given the 8 or 9 months that are left in the current Council's mandate, will we expect to see a major overhaul of our building and zoning practices to encompass more environmental and sustainable measures?
So before, I'm sure Councillor Aronson might, or D'Amico and Councillor Pert might want to weigh in on this, but I wouldn't say that it was rejected by council. What was brought forward was, asking for, I'll use one example, which was reducing the masonry that is required in Westmount. That is a significant undertaking. It is not something that a responsible council would just, without any feedback from internally how we would manage it. It is not something that we had discussed in great detail and how that would be managed. And that is a significant change to how houses are built in Westmount. We needed more information on that. So these things weren't, flat out rejections, but it is, they can take time to integrate, upgrade, and maybe it's not just so much it'd be great to, tick a whole bunch of boxes on this, but we have to do it responsibly. So, Councillor Aronson, you may want to add more to that.
Absolutely. So, Mr. Dufour, as you may recall, from the time at which you brought forward some excellent ideas, that the request from the committee was to go forward and see if council would accept a deviation from the mission that we've been given by council to bring forward a comprehensive package of well-researched policy proposals around environmental issues and sustainability. And we did exactly what was proposed. We asked, can we deviate from the mission we've been given to come up with a comprehensive, holistic package that can be looked at all at once to see if we can bring forward these small pieces, these ideas now, without the policy research that we had been asked to produce to support them. And council considered them and said, these are excellent ideas. And we would like to see them as part of the comprehensive package that this committee will bring forward. And so when we came back to the committee and explained that very thing, we discussed the fact that those policy ideas are excellent. They have weight. And they deserve the research and the complete thinking that is required to enact them in a responsible way, because as we discussed, bylaws are a lot like it's like playing a game of Jenga. If you just pull out one little piece to see if you can make it work, you do risk having a whole bunch of unintended consequences that we could not responsibly enact immediately in order to have what we would call a quick win. We all want to win on the environment. We all want to win on sustainability. But we are also taking the time to make sure that the policy recommendations we do put forward are, again, approached from a point of view that we can actually achieve them in the short term, and that they make sense within our complicated legislative or bylaw structure, so that we don't pull one piece out and find that we've caused all sorts of problems in other places that we hadn't anticipated. So that's where we're at. Councillor Pete?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you for raising your hand and volunteering for the committee. It's great when we have when we have engaged residents really take time out from the day and put forward their expertise that will contribute to the communal knowledge. I don't know why I'm ringing. Sorry. I'll take an example of one of the quick fixes, because the reality is we are a small city with limited resources. And as I did say, we do have a dedicated resource. But these dedicated resources, they are on a plan. They start out the year with a timeline of what it is they want to achieve, and to introduce a quick fix takes them off the plan of what they were already doing. And it's not one law. That's the challenge here. We're not talking about one law. We're talking about a series of laws. And the current state, well, it's getting better now, but years ago, it was a spaghetti of regulations. And so you make a change here, and it wasn't reflected somewhere else, and nothing was meshing. So even just today, we just put in GC today, we're looking at a revised version of our most foundational bylaw, which is our permits and certificates bylaw. It's not your suggestion, but rather the first suggestion of the committee was in relation to either green roofs or to, sorry?
Reduction in masonry.
No, not masonry, but that no, not even the parking, but either the green roofs or the high reflectance roofs, to make them mandatory in Westmount. On the face of it, that sounds perfectly logical. But in terms of implementation, guess what? You don't require a permit to redo your flat roof. So that means there's no requirement to submit an application to redo your flat roof. So if there's no requirement to do a flat roof, then what we would be doing by imposing a change would be actually to introduce a new step which did not exist before. That's one part of it. And then there's the enforcement part of it. So how do we manage the enforcement of a policy? We don't expect our inspectors to climb a ladder to go up to see the roofing material. So it sounds small, but then there's like cascading impacts of these things. And so that's why the quick fixes, and the city historically has done a few quick fixes, and we're living some of the fallout of some of those quick fixes, because those quick fix over here, quick fix over there, and they don't mesh. And so there's misalignment. And so we have to be considered when we are assembling our bylaws, and that's the exercise we're going through now. One by one, we're improving our demolition bylaw. We're improving our permits bylaw. We're just going by them one by one and giving it the time and attention that it deserves. And what we were looking for as an output, as a final report, the deliverable from the Environmental Action Committee, was like a package that we could give to the next team to say, work on this and see how each of these recommendations impact bylaw 1, 2, 6, and 9. And that was what we resisted when we say we can't just come piecemeal, one by one, because it's logistically, operationally, it's not good practice.
Okay. May I just respond? Thank you for the answers, but I would like to respond to some of those comments that I think they're important to address. The idea that, you know, these are monstrous changes that are going to impact all aspects of your building and zoning bylaws is incorrect. The two examples you mentioned, the white roofs, for example, or green roofs, other municipalities, actually all municipalities just about in the island of Montreal have those enforced. I don't really think this is an insurmountable hurdle. And in fact, your own committee in April of 2024, or council had made a recommendation, I think maybe it was just to satisfy some global requirement for the city of Montreal to tackle urban heat islands. You did say we'd like to encourage the use of white roofs, but there was no bite to that. There was no real significant implementation of a bylaw. The other issue about the masonry, about 8-inch masonry, this is something that dates from 100 years ago, if not more. When homes were built of masonry, they were concrete, so they were brick masonry structures, and that is what Westmount is mostly made of. And I understand that. That's how it was. That's not how we build today. And I think Councillor Pert, anybody in construction will attest to that. You have in the past made some minor updates. You call them housekeeping rules that you've changed in your bylaws to deal with spas or fencing and pools or retaining walls. I've seen those come up. So don't tell me that you cannot make small changes here and there unless you do an entire overhaul.
Okay.
So anyway, all that to say is that I asked the question, and the question was, will we see, I'll repeat the question, will we see a significant change before the end of this mandate?
We hope to continue to make changes and improvements on sustainability issues for the rest of this mandate. But it's, you know, it needs to be done in a thoughtful process. The system that we can't do is council in GC brought forward by Councillor Aronson. Will you change the masonry guidelines for Westmount? That's not a decision that council is going to make at the table without further information. It would be irresponsible for us to do that.
They said that in 2011, that's 14 years ago. We're still waiting, so thank you.
Thank you. Next question.
Good evening. My name is Colleen Gray. I live on Victoria Avenue. I'm changing the subject. Sorry. I'd first of all like to begin by noting the remarkable response that I received about Summit Woods and about the changing of the signs. Within 2 weeks, I would have to say that the signs are now clearly visible, delineating where the dogs are supposed to be leashed and where they are not. There's actually even a sign about the permits. This is a big step in the right direction. It was never properly signed at all. Now, I'm beginning a new year, and I'm asking council if you are willing or if you are thinking of going in a further direction to more carefully advance the equality of usage of Summit Woods. Okay, now we have a clear indication as to where the dogs are leashed and where they're not. We are wondering, a lot of us who are into the on-leash idea, are you going to revisit that and try to make the usage of Summit Woods democratic and fair for Westmount citizens?
So at this, thank you for your question. I'm glad that you appreciate the signage, and the head of communications is at the back of the room, so he will certainly be happy to hear that and share that with his team. At this point, there has been no discussion or intention for us to make any further changes. We are seeing increased presence, increased fines, increased vigilance about making sure that you have your permits and all of the right things that you're supposed to do, and certainly hoping that continues in a positive way. So, but there is no intention to change that at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, yes?
I mean, obviously, we have a disagreement on this issue.
I've noticed.
Listen, I'm of the opinion that Summit
What?
Woods... I'm of the opinion that Summit Woods is a treasure, and it should be...
I'm of the opinion that Summit Woods is a treasure as well.
But that everybody
I
should
think
have
the
access.
difference is
everything-
we
every-
want it to remain a treasure that everybody can enjoy.
I feel the best way to reach that conclusion or to reach that objective is if the dogs are on leash at all times. That would respect the provincial law, not only the provincial law, but as you know, I've contacted the ministry. I've asked for a post-implementation due diligence. I was told that the administration, the Director General, and the legal should obtain 2 letters. One is from the insurance company that should there be a dog bite at Summit Woods, our insurance will cover us. The second one is from the legal firm that gave the original legal opinion, that the opinion they gave obviously confirms the bylaw that we implemented. So it's a post-implementation due diligence. It's not my job to do a post-implementation due diligence. It's the Director General and the Legal Affairs job to do. But it's the ministry's, so that's 7 months ago, so 7 months has passed. They're of the opinion that if they're not able to get those 2 documents, there is a high probability that the bylaw is non-conforming.
I would disagree with that, but thank you for
Well,
your
we have a
question.
disagreement on this.
Well,
We
no,
have
no,
agreement on the facts on that. But thank you for your feedback and your comments.
And thank you, Councillor, for clarifying that. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Next question.
Caroline Breslaw, Grosvenor Avenue, and I have to say it's a privilege to live in a community where differing views are heard.
Welcome.
So,
Happy
on
New
that,
Year.
My question is for Kathleen Kez, or questions, who is the councillor for the Southeast sector. Kathleen, do you know how many comments have been filed because there was a January 9th deadline?
I have no idea. I believe none of us do because they haven't been counted. I don't know if the administration knows, but I have not been made aware of any comments.
So perhaps I'd redirect it to Mayor Smith. The deadline was, and I know Kathleen tried to get it extended, but it was refused.
It was extended to the 9th.
It was extended to the 9th, but not further. So that means you should know how many comments have been received. Yes?
I don't have the exact number now, no.
Has anybody on council seen, including Kathleen, who is the councillor for the sector, seen the comments?
She has not, you have not seen we haven't seen the comments. What we have seen is often people will email and say, I sent this in as my commentary. No.
Okay. You have said, Mayor Smith, that the public, the citizens will see those comments when?
I did not, I don't know I don't know the exact format of how those comments will be shared. What we did see after the first round of public consultations, we had a list and, we saw a lot of the commentary. We also saw the numbers of people who responded to the polling, attendance number. We had all of that data. So we will also have that. We just don't have it yet.
Yeah, because it's
Thank you.
important. I know that when there was a request for the demolition permit for sectors of the Good House, we saw the comments.
Yep.
The comments were seen.
Your
It's important
request
as
is
part of the
noted.
transparency of the whole process. I'd like to remind people that this isn't the first time there's been a report, and it isn't the second time, the AGGLOMERATION report. In 1960, the city of Westmount asked John Bland to make a report for the urban renewal of the southern sector. That resulted in 135 residences being demolished on the north side of Dorchester, mostly parking lots, as Conrad stated, aside from the RCMP building and the Visa building, still today. And there was a proposal strongly endorsed by City Council at the time for high-rises at the corner of Atwater and Dorchester. Because of a huge public opposition, Council backed down. And we can thank the citizens in the 60s for standing up, and this is why I'm curious about the comments.
So thank you very much for your comment. I think Councillor Peart would like to also comment on the reports. There have been many reports. This is the first time we have done a PPU process to set out the vision and the framework for this. And we have gone through, you would, I'm sure, have seen all these archives as being an expert at the Westmount Historical Association. It's fun to go through also all of the old Westmount examiners on this. In particular, one was when Westmount Square was built. And the outcry and the community that was very much against the building of Westmount Square, led by, which was interesting to me, was led by the developer. The opposition, seemingly the sort of citizens' opposition, was led by a resident of Westmount and the developer of the 4300. I will send you the examiners. I think you'll find them interesting. And it was Mayor Drury at the time.
Okay.
So, Councillor Peart?
So, thank you. In my research, I also came across the 1960, the Bland Des Moines Edwards report, and that essentially is the original sin.
Yep. That caused it all.
It caused it all. And thankfully, we were spared from the recommendations that were included in there, but unfortunately, part of that recommendation was to widen Dorchester.
Yep.
Dorchester used to be a local street, a street actually less wide than is Tupper, a street that was actually less wide than was Bruce at the time. It was a local street. And as you say, 135 houses were...
A very high quality
exactly,
Victorian housing.
were demolished.
Very high quality.
And the thinking at the time was that the population was going to triple. That report was done in 1960. At that time, the DeCarey was just a concept, the Ville Marie was just a concept, and most importantly, the Metro wasn't built. So there was this anticipation that the population of Montreal was going to triple, and they effectively built a throughway from Dorchester, extending up to where it meets Clark.
So I think that John Fretz's comment about the importance of demographics and really studying what the trend is going to be in the future, so we do not end up with more very huge problems
So
in the future.
as part of that proposal was the Tupper lots were supposed to be, there were four blocks, and even more scary was everything south of Dorchester was almost going to be raised with another street going through across Stainer Park and everywhere and coming up around where...
But this is the Jane Jacobs moment for Westmount.
Exactly.
Because citizens rebelled.
Right.
So
it was the original sin, absolutely.
attention tout le monde.
Okay, thank you for your commentary. We'll take the next two questions, and then we have several questions online, so we do have to move on. So like the two
Well,
that are...
actually, I'm one of the people who submitted a question online.
Oh,
I wasn't sure
so-
how long that would take, so
Perfect.
I decided I
So
would
we're gonna-
stand
we
up and ask the
double
question.
down on you. Okay, perfect.
My name is Carol Christie Olson,
Welcome.
and as some of you probably already know, I'm a board member of the Atwater Library and a resident of Westmount. And my question that I submitted is regarding the Southeast Redevelopment Plan, or the proposed plan. And my question was, what are the densification target numbers of new residences and residents established by City Council and provided to LeMay to achieve the city's densification goals for the southeast sector? And a subsequent question to that is, what is the split of demographic groups and housing types the city is aiming to prioritize in the densification of the area?
I could just take the second half of that question. Remember, as I said before, this is very...
Actually, the most important question is the first one, because I'm assuming that in the mandate to draw up a proposed plan, LeMay must have been given some sort of strategic direction as to the numbers and the goals, understanding, as you mentioned here this evening, that there's been a decline in the population of Westmount. So I'm assuming some direction was given so that the built forms that are on the proposed plan were devised based on numbers that the City Council provided LeMay.
The City Council doesn't provide LeMay, the elected officials do not provide LeMay with those numbers. What we did, obviously, our goal is a lot of what you saw in terms of the buildings that were part of the vision that are there to also to do exactly this, elicit feedback. But a lot of that came from the public consultations. Were you able to attend the public consultations?
I was.
And a lot of that came from the public consultations in terms of what citizens expected to see on those on those streets, and what they were
I wasn't aware
comfortable
that
with.
citizens were expecting to see 25-story buildings
No,
or
we didn't
three
go.
15-story
We had,
buildings.
but there was a lot of commentary about heights and densification on, in particular, St. Catherine Street. But do you want to address the second part?
Well, I guess, so if I am understanding correctly, there was no direction given to LeMay at all regarding densification. There were no goals established by the council as to the numbers that were hoped for.
There's no concrete number of, I need to have 6,000 citizens to be.
So randomly, they decided 25 stories and
It's-
three
no.
15-story buildings were necessary on St. Catherine Street? Is that what I'm to understand that this was?
No, I wouldn't call that a random recommendation.
I guess I'm just wondering where those heights came from.
The heights come also as well for matching what's on the north side of the street. They currently match what's on the north side of the street. That was what was in the LeMay proposal. Do you have anything you want to add to this?
Yeah, so,
Just as a comment, I find that frightening, but anyway.
well, Westmount Square has 3 towers. The 2 residential towers are 69 meters. The 1 commercial tower is 83 meters.
And 83 meters is how many stories?
No, but it's in the
Correct.
area.
And also, I wouldn't say, being a resident and owner of Westmount Square, that it is the epitome of densification. In fact, quite the opposite. I live on a floor that has 4 units of almost 2,400 square feet, and we're 6 people. I wouldn't say, and again, as the library continues to make the point, is that towers do not guarantee densification.
I think that we also repeated that point as well, that towers does not necessarily mean
Right.
shoebox
I think the
apartments.
model that has worked very well in Westmount, and that we've reiterated several times as the Atwater Library, is lower
So
multifamily
we've tried that
units.
model, and it's not generating any attraction on St. Catherine Street.
Okay, I think that question of who we've approached, how we've approached, and I think it just deserves some sort of more creative approach that involves different stakeholders, of which the Atwater Library would happily love to be included.
So I just want to point out, because I know there's questions later on, and I'm sure probably many of you want to leave, that there is a question about the Atwater Library and why weren't they included. They were included from the get-go. They were part of the first
No,
round.
the idea
of
wasn't that
meetings.
we weren't included, because I do understand that we were part of the consultations, but we weren't. As a heritage site, we believe that we have a unique character in the neighborhood, a unique understanding of the neighborhood, and we were not approached individually by either council members or the LeMay team.
Yeah, okay, they were very much part of the original stakeholders. I know our team is also meeting them this Friday.
Correct? On our invitation.
Yeah, and
Right.
Lynn Verge knows how to get a hold of me. She would like to invite me. She's welcome to invite me. The city has
Great,
has
we
supported
welcome
you.
your attendance.
The city has supported the Atwater Library, will continue to support the Atwater Library.
Thank you.
We, since I've been mayor, I think it's been somewhere in the ballpark of $400,000. That's the second largest recipient of community grants after Contactivity. We believe in the work that you do, and that's
Thank you.
a
It's
statement by
important.
every year when we give you that. We think you will be one of the greatest beneficiaries of a revitalized neighborhood. What that looks like, we don't know yet.
Thank you. That's really refreshing to hear, because we are, as we've stated in multiple comments that we've sent to the city, we are very pro-revitalization of the area. We have lived very firsthand the decline of this area. So we're not standing here saying we're against some sort of revitalization plan. What we're saying is we're not for a 25-foot story next to our building. And just because there are other high-rises in our midst doesn't really make it right to put one right next door to a heritage site, that we deserve a protective space so that our building could actually serve as an entree to this sector.
Okay, thank you. Last question.
My name in Canada, it's Philip Cercone. In Quebec, it's Filippo Cercone. And I have lived on, you don't know the problems that causes, but I have lived on Victoria since 1985 between Sunnyside and the Boulevard. My question really concerns about communication. Communication from the city and communication from the citizen to the city. The website that you have right now is a mess.
We know.
And I have myself, in my former job, I've just recently retired from McGill, but I haven't retired because I'm writing 3 books. I had the pleasure or the displeasure of trying to find from the city who do I need to contact regarding garbage collection. Okay, that's been a hot subject. You would think, boom, you're there. Well, what happened was the first thing I couldn't find the phone number of City Hall on the website because I'm adept at using a computer. I went on the website. It's almost impossible to find, before you could. Now you gotta scroll all the way down and in very small letters in blue in an area, I don't know if the background was black or what, but I couldn't find it until I went back to the website and punched in the phone number of City Hall, and I got it. Well, when I went back to the telephone number, lo and behold, what happened is that you're directed to the website. So if you don't know the department or the people you have to connect at the website, you can't find them. So I won't waste your time, but to tell you, it took me 3 days, and on the 3rd day, I finally phoned up some kindly old person in the city of Westmount whose number I didn't know, and I asked them, please help me. Where is garbage collection? Is it a department? Where does it fall under? And the person didn't know, even though it's an employee of some 15 to 20 years here. So what happened is he said, I know who to contact, and went for that number. Well, it took him and I an hour and a half trying to reach that department, and it wasn't during lunch hour, I guarantee you, or after 4 or whatever. So to make a long story short, I could not get the information I needed. So I said, well, this must be just a glitch on the website. So I tested it in other areas, and the same thing happened over and over again. So my question is, with the website right now, communication is a two-way street. It is one where the city gives information, advice, etc. to the citizen. But if a citizen wants to get a hold of City Hall or department, it's impossible. I know 2 people that still have a rotary phone. How are they going to contact City Hall? Now, if you phone a pharmacy, at least they say, if you've got a rotary phone, please stay on the line. In city of Westmount, and there, again, the word of the night is demographics. Thank you for bringing that up. We have a lot of old people here that are not adept at using a website, too. So shouldn't we make it possible for them to contact City Hall? Or if you're a whiz at using the website, it should be one that's navigable.
So
how are you going to make that better? Thank you.
we are going to launch a new website that is coming. I don't know what the date is. It's spring of this year. In the meantime, 989-5200 will get you to City Hall. And I hope for the garbage question that you had, that has been solved. If it has not, you can, since your garbage question is not solved, you're welcome to send me an email, and we will, or you can send an email to assistance@westmount.org, and that is the most efficient way to get an answer to your question about garbage collection, is assistant@westmount.org for those types of questions. So, or send it to me, either one, and we'll make sure your question gets answered. But the phone number is on the site, yeah. Yeah, but it is getting a massive upgrade. Okay, we are now going to move into, I think because we have so many online questions, we can do them in the second question period. We will now move into the next part of the agenda. So if you are leaving, you shouldn't feel badly. This is when most people leave us, but you're also welcome to stay because there is a second question period, which it's very hot in here. All right, beginning with, on va commencer avec l'adoption de l'ordre du jour. C'est Conseiller Peart.
Merci, Madame la Mairesse. I move that the agenda, I'll give it a second.
Thank you all for coming, those that are no longer staying with us. You can start. Who cares? Just go. Nobody cares about this part.
I move that the agenda of the regular council sitting of January 2025 be adopted with the addition of the following items. 26.1, appointment, Division Head of the Communications Department. 26.2, grant to nonprofit organizations, Green Neighborhood Merchants Association, and Victoria Village Merchants Association.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor D'Amico. All in favor? Carried. Item number 5, numéro 5, c'est le rapport au Conseil. Les documents suivants sont déposés. La liste de règlements adoptée au Conseil d'agglomération du 19 décembre 2024, lettre d'Emmanuel Tanimour, greffier de la Ville de Montréal, concernant le règlement RCG 14-029-6, intitulé Règlement modifiant le schéma d'aménagement de le développement de l'agglomération de Montréal, RCG 14-29, ainsi qu'une copie certifiée conforme du règlement RCG 14-029-6 et la résolution CG 24-0687, lettre d'Emmanuel Tanimour, greffier de la Ville de Montréal, concernant le règlement RCG 14-029-7, intitulé Règlement modifiant le schéma de Montréal, de l'aménagement et développement de l'agglomération de Montréal, RCG 14-029, ainsi une copie certifiée confrontant le règlement RCG 14-29-7 et de la résolution CG 24-0686, règlement 04-047-272 de la Ville de Montréal, intitulé Règlement modifiant le plan d'urbanisme de la Ville de Montréal, ainsi que le certificat de publication de règlement 04-047-272, dépôt du projet de loi 86, loi visant à assurer la pérennité du territoire agricole et sa vitalité, résolution de 2 municipalités en lien avec la demande d'appui pour la révision de la loi fiscalité municipale RLRQ CF2.1 pour les taxes de la Sûreté du Québec, résolution de 2 municipalités en lien avec la demande d'appui pour la révision des lignes directrices pour les valorisations des soies contaminées de MELCCFP, avis en français et en anglais de la Ville de Montréal concernant l'étude publique du budget 2025 et du PDE 2025 au 2034. Avis en français et en anglais de la Ville de Montréal concernant la présentation publique d'études sur l'interpellation et l'interception policière, ce rapport au profilage racial. 5.2, le rapport de main-d'œuvre. Councillor Chamy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move the workforce report for the month of November 2024 is now tabled.
Thank you. 5.3, c'est le registre des paiements. Councillor D'Amico.
Merci, Madame la Mairesse. La liste des paiements pour le mois de novembre 2024 est déposée.
Merci beaucoup. 5.4, liste d'approbation en vertu de règlement 1507. C'est le conseiller Chamy.
in accordance with Bylaw 1507 on the delegation of powers to certain employees of the City of Westmount, the list of authorization of expenditures for the month of November 2024 is now tabled.
Thank you very much. 5.5, liste des facturations des droits de mutation. C'est le conseiller d'Amico.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The list of duties on transfers for the month of November 2024 are tabled.
Thank you. Item number 6, numéro 6, c'est l'orientation du Conseil sur les sujets devant être présentés au Conseil d'agglomération de Montréal. Councillor Shammy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the mayor, or in her absence, the acting mayor, be authorized to make any decision deemed appropriate regarding the items on the agenda of the meetings of the Agglomeration Council of Montreal to be held from January to October 2025 in the best interests of the City of Westmount and its residents.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Peart. Numéro 7, c'est... all those in favor, sorry. Seconded by Councillor Peart. Numéro 7, la nomination de maire suppléant année 2025, c'est Conseiller Peart.
Merci, Madame la mairesse. Je propose que la conseillère êTRE M. Bostock soit nommée mairesse suppléante pour les mois de février, mars et avril 2025. Que la conseillère Mary Gallery soit nommée mairesse suppléante pour les mois de mai, juin et juillet 2025. Que le conseiller Matthew E. Aronson soit nommé maire suppléant pour le mois d'août, septembre et octobre 2025.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Kez, because she is not in that list. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Item number 8, numéro 8, modification au calendrier des séances du Conseil pour l'année 2025. Councillor Shammy.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the 2025 schedule of regular council meetings be amended so that the meetings for October, November, and December will be held as followed. Wednesday, October 1st, 2025, 7 p.m. Monday, 17 November 2025, 7 p.m. And Monday, 8th of December 2025 at 7 p.m.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Gallery. Those changes are due to an election that is going to take place in November 2025. So that's why the November date is moved. All in favor? Carried. Item number 9, numéro 9. Is support for the 2025 Hooked on School Days. Is Councillor Roux.
Alors, je propose d'identifier la... Oups, sorry. Thank you. Je propose d'identifier la semaine du 10 au 14 février 2025 comme celle des journées de la persévérance scolaire, appuyer la campagne des journées de la persévérance scolaire 2025 sur la thématique « La persévérance fait toute la différence ».
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor D'Amico, and this is a motion that that Councillor Roux proposes each year, and it is part of a campaign that municipalities across the island of Montreal and across Quebec that are encouraging kids to stay in school and to increase the funds that are needed to help them do that. You want to add anything else to that?
Just that we all have the occasion to put in a kind word and an encouraging word with youngsters, and it can make a big difference, so we should remember that.
Yes, so that's why we're happy to have all our programs at the Westmount Library and as well supporting the Teen Center at the WRC. Donc, merci beaucoup. So moved by Councillor Roux, seconded by Councillor Gallery. All in favor? Carried. We are now moving to item number 10, numéro 10, adoption d'un plan d'action 2024 pour l'intégration des personnes handicapées. Councillor Bostock.
I move that the 2024 action plan concerning persons with disabilities, along with the Directory of Accessible Locations for the year 2024, be adopted in accordance with the documents included in the decision-making file 2024-2471.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Aronson. Do you want to add any further updates on this?
This is a list that we update annually to ensure that any changes to accessible spaces throughout the city are added to the list, and then it gives us an action plan in terms of how we can continue to make our city more accessible physically, but also through other areas in terms of sight, hearing, and then any other limited mobility. So it's good.
Great, thank you. So seconded by Councillor Aronson. All in favor? Carried. Item number 11 is Councillor Roux as well. Agreement with the Westmount Battery, support to a non-profit organization.
Thank you, Madame Mayor. Je vais lire les attendus que parce qu'il y a de l'information là-dedans que je ne connaissais pas avant d'être au Conseil, alors il y a peut-être des gens qui vont trouver ça intéressant. Attendu que la batterie de Westmount, la batterie, est une personne morale sans but lucratif et qui a pour mission de promouvoir l'histoire de l'artillerie canadienne. Attendu que la ville de Westmount est propriétaire de 2 canons britanniques historiques et que la batterie a procédé à leur restauration. Attendu que les canons de la ville nécessitent de l'entretien. Attendu que la batterie souhaite mettre en valeur les canons de la ville, notamment en les incluant à une activité annuelle organisée par la ville. Et finalement, attendu que la loi sur les compétences municipales permet aux municipalités d'accorder une aide à des organismes sans but lucratif. Je propose d'accepter les termes et conditions de l'entente à intervenir entre la ville de Westmount et la batterie de Westmount, telles que jointes à la présente résolution. D'autoriser la directrice générale à représenter la ville de Westmount et à signer pour et au nom de la ville de Westmount l'entente jointe à la résolution, ainsi que tout autre document donnant effet à la présente. Qu'une aide monétaire de 3 000 $ soit accordée à la batterie de Westmount, le tout conformément aux informations financières du sommaire décisionnel numéro 2024-2484.
Merci beaucoup. Seconded by Councillor Shammy. Any further comments on this?
Councillor Shammy would have liked to move this, so I'll let him comment.
It's a small amount, but an important amount for a very community-driven organization that has restored these 2 cannon that you may have seen, you may not have seen, but they've been fired on a couple occasions since their restoration is being led sort of 2 volunteers in the community, one by 2 former councillors, George Bowser and Patrick Martin, that have put in a lot of effort and time into restoring these cannons, and they are unique, and we are lucky to have them, so this is an agreement with them. Proposed by Councillor Roux, seconded by Councillor Shammy. All in favor? Carried. Item number 12, authorization for the signing of a servitude agreement, Hydro Westmount installations for the Albert Square project. Councillor Shammy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the city clerk or assistant city clerk be authorized to sign on behalf of the city of Westmount a servitude agreement for the installation of electrical equipment related to Albert Square. That the city clerk or assistant city clerk be authorized to sign any document required to implement said servitude.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Bostock, the councillor for the area. I don't think there's any further comments on that. All in favor? Item number 13, numéro 13, c'est designation of responsible persons for the performance evaluations of certain contracts. This is going to be Councillor D'Amico.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Whereas the City of Westmount is currently undertaking several significant projects requiring the conclusion of procurement, service, and construction contracts with various suppliers and contractors. Whereas the city, in the interest of sound public fund management, aims to ensure that its projects are carried out in compliance with contractual provisions and that its officials have all the tools provided by the law to this end. Whereas Section 573 of the Cities and Towns Act allows the city to evaluate the performance of suppliers and contractors who have been awarded such contracts. Whereas these performance evaluations must be conducted by a person designated for this purpose by council, I move that the following individuals be designated as responsible for preparing performance evaluations for the contracts identified below. Contract PUB-2023-057, designated person Elisa Gaetano, Engineering Department. Contract PUB-2023-046, designated person Patrick Duchesne, Engineering Department.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Bostock. I think that's fairly straightforward. All in favor? Carried. Item number 14, authorization for an expertise on the former incinerator STGM architecture. Councillor Peart.
Merci, Madame la Mairesse. I move that the mandate to conduct an expertise on the former incinerator of the City of Westmount as part of files SAI-M-179472-1012, SAI-M-181888-1103, SAI-M-264182-1708, SAI-M-264184-1708, be granted to STGM Architecture, Saint-Gelais, Montminy, et Associés Architectes Incorporés. That the city clerk or assistant city clerk be authorized to sign any document on behalf of the city of Westmount for this purpose. That an expense of $150,000, including taxes, be authorized for the execution of this mandate. That this expense be charged in accordance with the financial information outlined in decision-making file number 2024-2477.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Shammy. This is an important step in dealing with a building that has been condemned since 1970-something, perhaps. But it is a complicated one to well, it's an expensive one to demolish. I guess we could put it that way. So, seconded by Shammy. All in favor? Aye. Item number 15, numéro 15, c'est modification d'un contrat location et transport de conteneurs. C'est celui-là devrait être Councillor Bostock. It's a Public Works one.
I move that the contract awarded to Projet A&A Division Conteneur, Inc. for the rental and transportation of containers for various types of residual materials, resolution number 2023-12-324, be amended and increased to a maximum amount of $77,475.90, including taxes. That an additional expenditure of $11,077.84, including taxes, be authorized for said contract. That this expenditure be charged according to the financial details outlined in the decision-making file number 2024-2475.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Gallery. All in favor?
Aye.
Item number 16, numéro 16, awarding of a contract replacement of the lighting system at Victoria Hall. C'est Conseil.
So I'll skip the whereases. There's enough people who go to Victoria Hall to know that this is badly needed. So I move that the city award the contract of the replacement of the stage lighting system at Victoria Hall Community Centre to Le Groupe Technisson for a maximum amount of $45,389.83, taxes included. That a total expenditure of $41,446.97, including the tax credit, be authorized for the purposes of this contract. That this expenditure be charged according to the financial details outlined in decision-making file number 2024-2463.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Shammy. Any further comments beyond that is very needed?
Not another thing, so I'm glad at everything we pass.
So seconded by Shammy. All in favor? Aye. Carried. Number 17, numéro 17, octroi d'un contrat sécurisation des actifs et édifices de la ville. Et ça, c'est Monsieur Shammy. Councillor
Thank
Shammy.
you, Madam Mayor. I move that the city award the contract for the addition of access card readers, pardon me, to Allied Universal Technology Services for a maximum amount of $89,496.54, including taxes, and to authorize an expenditure of $81,722.27, including tax credit for the purpose of this contract, and that the expenditure be charged according to the financial details outlined in decision-making file number 2024-2470.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor D'Amico. Any further comments on this?
Straightforward.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item number 18, numéro 18, is renewal 2025 Cybersecurity Service Agreement, FMQS. And that is again, Councillor Shammy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move to authorize the renewal of contract awarded to FQM Services Cooperative of Solidarité for Cybersecurity Services, Resolution 2022-12-233 and 2024-0231 for the period from November 21st, 2024 to November 20th, 2025 for a maximum amount of $121,382.74, taxes included, and authorize an expenditure of $110,838.62, including the tax credit for the purpose of this contract, and to authorize the Director of Digital Information Technology Department to sign on behalf of the City of Westmount any documents required to implement the renewal of the said contract and charge the expense related to the contract in accordance with financial information provided in decision-making file 2024-2472.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Peart. Any further comments on that one?
No.
No. Item number 19. Oh, sorry, all in favor. So seconded by Peart. All in favor? Carried. Number 19, octroi d'un contrat entretien et support de logiciel informatique. Ça, c'est Conseiller D'Amico. Councillor D'Amico.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that a contract for maintenance and support be awarded to PG Solutions, Inc. for the year 2025 for a maximum amount of $120,411.02, including taxes, that an amount of $109,951.31, including the tax credit, be allocated to the contract, and that the amounts be allocated in accordance with the financial information provided in decision-making file number 2024-2462.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Bostock. Any further comments on that? No? All in favor? Carried. Item number 20, numéro 20, is an authorization of payment, property and liability insurance, BFL Canada. Is Councillor Shammy?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the amount of $228,606, including taxes, be paid to BFL Canada Risques et Assurances, Inc. for the property insurance premium, Block A, and brokerage fees for the period from January 1st, 2025 to January 1st, 2026, and that the amount of $491,432, including taxes, to be paid to BFL Canada Risques et Assurances, Inc. for the liability insurance premium, primary, complementary, and excessive coverage, Block B, and brokerage fees for the period January 1st, 2025 to January 1st, 2026, and that a total expenditure of $720,038, including taxes, be authorized to cover these payments in accordance with the financial information provided in decision-making file number 2024-2480, and that the city clerk or the assistant city clerk be authorized to sign all documents necessary for the implementation of this resolution.
Thank you very much. A seconder on this will be Councillor D'Amico. Any further comments?
Just our annual insurance premiums.
It's insurance.
Very important.
As we do. Have it all in order. Seconded by D'Amico. All in favor? Carried. Item number 21, notice of motion bylaw 1627, authorizing capital expenditures and a loan of $3,009,000 for the repair of the public stairs. Councillor Shammy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to give notice of motion of the intention to submit at a future meeting of the City Council bylaw number 1627, entitled A Bylaw Authorizing Capital Expenditures and a Loan of $3,009,000 for the repair of public stairs. And the purpose of this bylaw is to authorize the borrowing and authorize expenditures of the $3,009,000 for the repair of the public stairs. And a copy of this draft bylaw will be available for consultation.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Gallery,
Doesn't need
perhaps?
to be seconded.
Oh, it doesn't need to be because it's
Just
just
a notice.
It's a notice of motion. As those who use our public stairs are well aware, while some are closed and condemned, and others are in need of repair. Item number 22 is also Councillor Shammy, notice of motion bylaw 1628, authorizing capital expenditures and a loan of $2,647,190 for the refurbishment of municipal buildings.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I give notice of the intention to submit at a future meeting of the City Council bylaw 1628, entitled Bylaw Authorizing Capital Expenditures and a Loan of $2,647,190 for the refurbishment of municipal buildings, and that I present the draft of the said bylaw. The purpose of this bylaw is to authorize borrowing and authorize expenditures up to $2,647,190 for the refurbishment of municipal buildings, and a copy of this draft bylaw will be available for consultation.
Thank you very much. Item 23, numéro 23, notice of motion bylaw 1629, amending bylaw 1575, establishing a planning advisory committee. We don't need to, taking that one out?
No, actually, you need to vote on, to submit it, but the first two paragraphs are not needed.
Okay, parfait. Councillor Peart?
Merci, Madame la Mairesse. I give notice of motion of the intent to submit at a future meeting of the Municipal Council bylaw number 1629, entitled Bylaw Amending Bylaw 1575, establishing a Planning Advisory Committee. I table and present the draft of the said bylaw.
Thank you very much. Item number 24 is adoption bylaw 1623 to impose a levy and a tax and a compensation for the 2025 fiscal year. And that is Councillor Shammy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that bylaw number
Monsieur
16.
le conseiller, avant, je dois aviser le conseil en fait que toutes les formalités
je
requises
m'excuse.
pour la dispense de lecture du règlement ont été respectées et les copies du règlement ont été remises à tous les membres du conseil et mises à la disposition du public.
Merci. Can I have each member of council present declare that they have read the bylaw in accordance with the formalities that the reading is waived?
So declared.
Thank you. And now this part is Councillor Shammy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that bylaw 1623 entitled, "A Bylaw to Impose a Levy, a Tax, and a Compensation for the 2025 Fiscal Year" be now adopted.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Gallery. Do you have any further comments on this? No? Councillor Domingo? No? Okay. All in favor? Carried. Seconded by Councillor Gallery. Item number 25, adoption bylaw 1624, authorizing an expenditure and a loan of $18,238,400 for various roadwork, water main, and sewers. Councillor Shammy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Encore une fois, je vais vous arrêter là. Donc, je signale que toutes les formalités requises pour la dispense de lecture du règlement ont été respectées et que des copies du règlement ont été remises à tous les membres du conseil et mises à la disposition du public.
Merci beaucoup. Can I have each member of council present declare that they have read the bylaw and in accordance with the formalities that the reading is waived?
So declared.
Councillor Shammy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move now that bylaw 1623 entitled, "The Bylaw to Impose a Levy and a Tax and Compensation for 2025" be adopted.
I think you have read the wrong.
I did it twice? Okay, pardon. Maintenant 25. Now you're on 25. I will move 25. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will not read the preamble, but I'll move, Madam Mayor, that bylaw 1624, entitled, "A Bylaw Authorizing an Expenditure and a Loan of $18,238,400 for various roadwork, water main, and sewer projects," be adopted once the clerk asks us to declare.
No, that's it.
No, that's it. We've done it.
Seconded by Councillor D'Amico. I think it's important to note, and I think we're going to use this as an opportunity every chance that we get to highlight the incredible amount, the overwhelming amount of infrastructure work that is needed in this city, and the inability to finance that all in 1 year, but also a recognition of some of the projects cannot be delayed. They must be done. They are at the end of their life cycle, and any further delay, we know, will just increase those costs enormously. So it is not, these decisions have been debated and discussed and debated some more by this council. This decision was not taken lightly, but this work needs to be done, is how I would put it. I don't know if you want to, you've said your piece on this one. So moved by Councillor Shammy, seconded by Councillor D'Amico. All in favor? Aye. Carried. Item number 26, new business, appointment division head of the Communications Department. C'est Conseiller Shammy encore.
Merci, Madame la Mairesse. I move that Stacy Magnan be appointed Division Head of the Communications Department, Grade 7, effective January 14th, 2025, in accordance with the salary recommendation outlined in decision-making file 2024-2481, and as provided for in the conditions of employment and remuneration for managers, and that Ms. Magnan complete a probationary period as stipulated in Section 2 of the conditions of employment and remuneration for managers.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Bostock. I do not believe she is here tonight, but welcome and a welcome addition. All those in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Item number 26.2, 26.2 is grant to nonprofit organizations, Green Neighborhood Merchants Association and Victoria Village Merchants Association. Councillor Aronson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So, whereas pursuant to Section 91 of the Municipal Powers Act, a local municipality can provide financial assistance to promote the well-being of its population. And whereas the City of Westmount wishes to support the two nonprofit organizations established in October of 2018, namely the Green Merchants Association and the Victoria Village Merchants Association, and whereas these associations organize activities for the benefit of the entire Westmount population, I move that a grant of $40,000 be approved for each of the following merchants associations for the 2025 fiscal year, namely the Green Avenue Merchants Association and the Victoria Village Merchants Association, for a total of $80,000, subject to the following conditions. Firstly, the submission of their financial statements for the last fiscal year ending in 2024, and secondly, for the submission of a breakdown of how the grant funds will be allocated, and that further, that this expenditure be charged in accordance with the financial details outlined in decision-making file 2024-2489.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Gallery. Do you want to add any further comments on this?
Just quickly, this is the third and final installment of support that we are offering to our merchants in this mandate. As you will recall from last year and the year before, this money was made available to support our merchants associations as they exited the very difficult period that COVID brought to them. And we're very proud to be able to make available these funds to ensure that the merchants and business people of Westmount are able to have an environment where they can continue to offer the goods and the services that they do to us and in our local population. I know that having spoken to the merchant associations in years past, they're very grateful for our support, and I urge my fellow councillors to vote in favor of this motion in that it's vital that we have a vibrant commercial district in this area, in our city, in order to bring life to the commercial areas and activities of our city that make living here so wonderful. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. So seconded by Councillor Gallery. All in favor? Carried. That brings us to the end of the agenda. So now I know we have some questions that had been submitted online. I think we probably have more questions that have been submitted live, but we still have some people that are in attendance. So if you haven't already asked a question, I would encourage you to ask a question now, and then we will go to the online questions. And then if you have a second question, we would go then, but just in interest of time and making sure everybody's heard. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Jessica Winton. I have one super quick question and then a longer one. The water main work that's going on tomorrow and Wednesday, will that shut off water access for the residents in the areas that are affected?
Do you have an answer to that? I do not have that answer.
Okay. I just had
Did you get a
surgery.
Notification at your house that you were having water work done?
No, but it specifies Avenue Roslyn on notice that was posted on Instagram, which is what I use.
So if it was affecting your house, you would have been given an individual notice, but I'm not sure what the actual addresses are.
Okay.
If we can find that, I will try and have someone find that in the next few minutes, and we'll let you know.
Great. And then next is a comment on the kind of, not hysteria, regarding the building proposal.
Yeah.
But I would like to make it known that people of my generation are struggling a lot with housing, and limiting restrictions on building height is not necessarily the way to go about it. This is not a building that is even being proposed. It is a limit, not something that has come into existence yet. And during the public consultation, there was a developer at my table who I spoke to, who specified that 20 to 25 stories is about the ideal height for a developer, because anything more than that, it can be difficult to sell units because you become a bit more isolated, and anything less than that isn't quite profitable, as we've seen with the city already. And as a former student of Dawson, I can also attest to the fact that Dawson is incredibly overcrowded to the point where many of my classes actually took place in the Forum. Many rooms are rented out, which are actually very miserable as well because they're poorly ventilated. So if a building is to be constructed in this area at such a height, having it be mixed use, whether that's residential use and educational use for Dawson, I think could be very beneficial to people. It doesn't necessarily have to be one over the other. It can be senior residences, it can be family homes, family units, I should say. And there's no reason to kind of fearmonger a building that can be well integrated as long as it's planned properly.
Thank you for your commentary and your feedback, and we would always welcome the reopening of the file for the expansion of Dawson, and we would hope that the Quebec government would recognize the importance of that institution and that CEGEP and the extreme stress that building is in terms of capacity at Dawson College. I think you raised some very good points and some very important points. And while you may be the only one of your generation here tonight, we have heard from several people that may have a differing point of view on access to housing than some of the views we heard tonight. So we have heard from a lot of those people as well. So thank you.
I mean, I have a friend who lived in St. Henry, very close by, whose rent was $1,000 with 2 roommates in a 3-bedroom apartment. Obviously, rents have gone up a ridiculous amount in the past 5 or so years, and I think for people like myself who want to kind of continue to live in a place that they can call home, such as Westmount, I don't want to be pushed out or continue the kind of Italian heritage of living with my parents well into my 30s. But having a place to live that I could call my own would be more than welcome.
Okay, so thank you for sharing your perspective. It's appreciated. Oh, yeah, I just don't know if it gives the address. It's closer, it's actually probably in your neighborhood because it's closer to.
So it's the streets bounded by Chemin de Côte-des-Neiges, Westmount Avenue, Roslyn, and Summit Wood. And during those, in that area between January 14th and January 15th from 7:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., there will be an impact on the water. On January the 14th, there'll be a decrease in the water expected. Okay. On January 15th, there's a decrease in water pressure as well as a water shutdown for some residents expected. So I would imagine that if we are, you'll be notified if a water shutdown would actually affect your specific address.
So I would have had already received the notification.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next question.
Oh, yeah, and the work is being carried out by the City of Montreal. This is not actually Westmount's work.
Good evening. My name is Jeff Dowd. I'm a former Westmount resident and the Vice President of the Atwater Library. I want to wish a Happy New Year to the Council and many thanks for all your work. This is not an easy file that you're undertaking, but I'm glad you are looking at the Southeast sector. Just a clarification first in response to my colleague Cal Christie Olson earlier on. Mayor Smith mentioned the city has provided $400,000 in funding to the Atwater Library during her time as mayor. The correct figure is actually closer to $250,000.
I think it's actually 380.
We can compare notes later. Okay. Does the city realize it has received from our not-for-profit organization $120,000 in property taxes, as well as payments for several construction permits paid to the city since you took office?
Yes.
Thank you. My last question.
If everybody else in the room is also contributing to the tax.
Just establishing the point. Given our unique mission and heritage presence in the Southeast sector, is the council open to the Atwater Library's representatives being directly involved in planning discussions for the Southeast sector and in the recently adopted bylaw 1623, the establishment of a planning advisory committee or another relevant forum?
So I think you're asking about, are you asking to have a seat on the PAC?
I'm asking if the library is...
That is where we review building permits and applications.
And it's not relevant to our situation.
It is not relevant to your situation.
Thank you. Otherwise, is the library or its representatives welcome at any kind of planning discussion table?
Yes, and that's why we were very explicit in making sure that you were part of the original stakeholders meeting.
Moving forward.
Yes.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Patrick Barnard, 251 Melville. I just have
We're
a...
on a second question here, Mr. Barnard.
Okay, should I sit down?
No, well, now that you're up, I'll let it go in my generosity of the new year.
I wasn't quite I wasn't clear about the instructions to the students. No, clarification. When you were answering earlier, you seemed to indicate, Madam Mayor, that if a proposed building was, let's say, something like 5 or 6 stories, that developers indicated to you that that will be a no-go. Did I hear
No,
that properly?
I think what we have seen is 7-story on St. Catherine Street, 10 stories on the corner of St. Catherine and Atwater, and we have not seen any project come to fruition in the 10 years since that zoning has been in place. Any conforming project. There's been no conforming project to the zoning, which is set out very clearly. The rules of the game are very, very clear. Like, developers know exactly what the rules are to develop in this sector and what the zoning regulations are. It's very, very clear.
Okay, thanks.
There has been no conforming project that has been submitted in those 10 years.
What makes this dossier difficult, just to take up the language of this gentleman back behind me, the Atwater Library is an exceptional building from the architectural point of view, okay? Exceptional.
Nobody disputes that. And
I'm just saying, I mean, if you know architecture around the world, it's extremely unusual.
Agree. So thank you. And it's, I know in some of the commentary, I think that there's maybe a misperception about what the city of Westmount thinks of the Atwater Library. I can assure you that that is not the case at all. So we're very, very pleased to have you engaged in the process.
Thank you very much. Bruce Bolton, I'm the president of the
Welcome.
famous Atwater Library. I just want to double check a few things here. We've been told that we were involved directly by council or by LeMay in the planning process. We were contacted directly. As far as we know, we were not.
So you had representatives attending the first stakeholder meetings, yeah.
Absolutely. We've been all through the process as invited people, but we've never been actually contacted by anybody in this room or otherwise. I think what I'm saying is that we are an important building in the area that someone might have said to, what are you thinking about the Atwater Library?
So we understand the importance, the heritage of the Atwater Library. We understand the programming that you provide to the community. We applaud you for your dedication as volunteers to a community organization, which is hard to come by in this day and age, to have dedicated volunteers. So I applaud you for being engaged in a community institution. And we know that many of our institutions, such as the Atwater Library, have, I mean, I don't want to say, like, we know that this is a provincial government that has maybe not been kind to all of our institutions. So I applaud your dedication to the Atwater Library. We hope it continues to thrive in this neighborhood. We hope to be able to provide a whole new set of users and a rejuvenation of that street. And there's so much going on in this neighborhood. Like if you look just right next door to you, I'm sure you're extremely familiar with resilience. And the changes that have happened there in this past decade are incredible. They've gone from serving 125 meals a day to, on average, 400, 500 when Chez Doris was closed. And that's a huge number of people in need who are also in our community. So they're important. That situation is important, and ensuring that they transition to their new location seamlessly. There's a lot of important players, but make no mistake about it, we know that Atwater Library is also an important player.
That's greatly appreciated. We're having a number of meetings with the Westmount people, with the neighbors. So we're very appreciative of what you're also doing now and opening in that way. Any idea of how we can be involved?
Well, we've had the public consultations. I know that you guys have, you have encouraged people to give feedback. and that feedback has come in. Your involvement is participating in the democratic process right now. And if you have any further information, you're very welcome to share it. We're very, very accessible. I'm easy to find. And we will be I don't have the exact dates, but there will be next steps in terms of what the recommendations are. And I just assure you, we have heard all sorts of different recommendations. And as I think as was pointed out before, there are differing points of view on this, and I really hope as a community we can do this. So many communities tear themselves apart in this process. We're really trying not to have that happen.
I can only agree. I think what we're doing, the way you're going ahead is absolutely correct. We just want to be involved on almost a nitty-gritty basis, from the point of view that we have a lot of experts available to us, a lot of background that I think we can contribute in a very valuable way to the process.
I watched your Zoom last week. So I watched some of the questions, I heard some of the feedback, and I know that I've been through this now. I've been sitting in this chair for almost 8 years. I've seen that, I know that development and possible development and changes in construction and dust, and I think he's left, but like Mr. Philpott's been living next to a construction site for, on and off that project's been going for 7 years, or 6 years, I guess, probably. It's disruptive. The unknown is difficult. I know that. We know that this is a difficult, when you don't know what your neighbor's going to look like, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And what's that going to be, and what's that impact going to be? And this is so far away from, if you think this process is grueling, just wait till it gets to PAC. That's the most grueling process. But we have high expectations, high demands, but it would be irresponsible for us to look at the current situation and say, let's keep the same set of rules, because it hasn't garnered the movement, the development, the support for a commercial sector that's really struggling. And so it might have been easier to just say, let's leave everything the same and hope for a different result. But we chose to bring it to the public in the hopes that maybe we can get a revitalized neighborhood, which would be a great thing for you, a great thing for...
Well, that's exactly my closing remarks. We've been around for 196 years.
Yeah, you'll be around for another 196.
We've been around for 196 years because we are progressive, because we look ahead. And we're very anxious to be very much a part of a very vibrant community and area in that area.
Yeah, and I think you deserve a population around you like that. So
Exactly.
we hope we can move this in the right direction, but we do appreciate your feedback. We're not, there's by no means any plan to try and topple the Atwater Library. We understand there are some very important buildings. There had been discussion about the Royal Bank building at the end towards Green. There's some important places that Westmount Square is an incredibly important building in the neighborhood too, and people need options in terms of housing.
Exactly.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Okay, so I think we're going to move to online questions now, because there's like thousands of them.
Yeah. Okay, first one from Andrew Grove.
Yeah, and then just so we know that Mr. Bolton, can I assume that your question that you submitted online has been submitted in person? Okay, and then, and Mr. Dowd as well, can I assume that that's taken off the list? Okay, so Mr. Dowd and Mr. Bolton can be, and Mrs. Olson as well, can I assume that we take that off the list? There, we've got 3 less.
Yay. Okay, first one from Andrew Grove. Good day. Is the head count at Hydro Westmount increasing for 2025? The Westmount Independent reported in March 2024 that there was 36 employees. A 13% labor cost increase stands out on your budget, especially in the light of the projected 2.7 million budgeted loss for Hydro Westmount.
Yes, so there is no increased headcount. There's actually no increased headcount across the city projected for 2025. So that is a combination of new contracts that are collective agreements that have been signed, an adjustment in terms of some salary levels in order for, at Hydro, in order for us to keep people, retain people, and be in the market with other hydro services. So there's no increased headcount, but yes, you're right to notice that, well, you're very diligent to notice that number because it is a significantly higher number than the other departments, but it is not an increased headcount.
Parfait. Prochaine question. Je vais mentionner en fait que c'est une question qui provient de la séance extraordinaire du 16 décembre. Donc, puisque les questions étaient limitées là, au sujet de la séance extraordinaire, de Fabrice Whale. Bonsoir. À titre d'exemple, combien coûte le projet pilote du Triangle Clermont et le projet de turf artificiel de Marianopolis? Comment justifiez-vous le choix de votre administration de recourir à de la dette pour financer de tels projets non urgents et injustifiés? 7,7 millions empruntés en décembre 2024, alors que vous avez de très grosses dépenses d'entretien d'infrastructures urgentes. Comment justifiez-vous de dilapider de précieuses ressources financières et créer une dette pour nos enfants que des dépenses mesurées auraient pu éviter?
Est-ce que c'est fini?
Oui.
OK. Merci beaucoup pour la question. Vous avez posé, je n'ai pas la question devant moi, mais je pense que je me souviens des détails. Vous avez posé des questions sur Marianopolis. Il n'y a pas un chiffre que je pouvais... But didn't you have a second question on Claremont puis Marianopolis?
Je peux
donc, je n'ai pas le coût exactement pour le pilot study, mais je le sais que le coût pour Claremont, en total, ça va être significant for this year. Do we have, I can't read this question, can you?
Mais je peux intervenir un peu. Le montant exact, je ne l'ai pas avant moi. On peut faire suivre, mais ce que je me souviens, ça fait dans les alentours de comme 1,5% du budget total du projet. Alors, oui, c'est un montant, mais quand même, le but dans le temps, c'était de valider le concept. Ça se peut que, puis on verra au fin du mois de janvier si le résultat du projet pilote il a vraiment changé le résultat c'est ce qui est le concept final. Oui, c'est un montant, mais quand même toujours, il faut investir en amont d'un projet pour voir si vous dépensez bien l'ensemble du projet. Alors moi, je ne trouve pas que c'est une somme qui est perdue, c'est une somme qui nous a informés dans ce qu'il y avait à faire. Et puis, j'aimerais que ce niveau d'expérimentation, de d'essai, ça continue dans l'avenir.
Et que même si on n'avance pas avec un triangle comme ça ou la configuration comme ça, on va voir à la fin janvier, mais on a reçu beaucoup d'informations pendant le processus, puis on a reçu beaucoup de feedback aussi. Puis, donc, merci beaucoup pour cette question.
Parfait. 2 questions de Frédéric Girvan. First one, thank you, Mayor and Council, for your dedication to the city. There has been much excitement and interest for a partnership with Marianopolis for a shared soccer football field. The last private school partnership for ice time didn't result in the city getting an equitable deal. Whereas a lease was signed for 25 years with no increase in fees and no provision to charge for maintenance. How will the partnership with Marianopolis look like?
We are nowhere near any details of that, and nor has there been any discussion that it would be a football field. There's currently a soccer field at Marianopolis. It's not regulation size, but there is a soccer field there. So the discussion has been around a partnership for that, but I don't have any of the details on that. But I can assure you, we are very, very rigid on our details in terms of our partnerships like that. So we would have a very ironclad agreement if we were to ever move forward in that agreement. Next question.
Second question, the redevelopment of the southeast sector may be an opportunity for the city to get an indoor pool free. Granting permission for a condo tower can be conditional on the inclusion of a pool at no cost to the city. I will be pleased to help negotiate a terrific deal.
Thank you, Mr. Gervin. I like the sound of a free pool. That is also, people should note, that is also an element that was pretty prominent in the public consultations and that a lot of residents have written to me about, was the desire to have an indoor public pool somewhere in the area. Next question.
Telma Bogante. I am opposed to high-rise apartments being constructed in designated area. The drilling for underground parking will likely disturb the structure of the library. How can you be sure that your contractor will abide by the rules and we not have a disaster?
Thank you for your question. And I know that this is a concern of many, but I can assure you Westmount has very strict rules on this. I mean, there's countless examples in the city of projects being built next to homes that have been there for a very long time, and we would be very rigorous in any building requirements.
Next, from Caroline O'Connor.
No,
Good.
say both.
Okay. Does council have any feedback or update on the status of the LeMay plan for redevelopment of the southeast sector? I have submitted question and concern twice prior to the survey deadline and received no acknowledgement.
I don't know if, I guess you didn't, I don't know exactly that you didn't receive an acknowledgement, but there's no update yet. They're still putting together all of the different feedback from the different levels.
All right. Next question from Dr. Paul Hunter. I am quite disappointed to learn that City Council has put aside all the good ideas that were put forward to embellish Fordham Crescent. The administration has proposed 3 scenarios, which would have increased the amount of green space by somewhere between 600 and 800 square meters. Finally, Council has chosen to increase green space by a mere 20 square meters. Yet we are going to lose half our parking spaces. This doesn't make sense. Why don't you go back to one of the other scenarios proposed by the administration?
So I can add some commentary on this. This was a difficult street to redesign and rebuild, and it's one of our major projects that's coming this summer. Is that the space constraints that were on Fordham and the desire from an overwhelming number of residents to keep status quo. But we have to build to today's standards. We have to build to today's norms. We have to, when we know there's a safety issue, we have to address it. So there had been a couple different proposals. We tried to hear and balance the needs of the whole community, but I think there's some members on council that join you, Dr. Hunter, that join you with your disappointment of not being able to sort of expand some of the green space that's there, balanced with trying to address some of the needs around usage and parking and direction and sidewalks use and things like that. So we hope at the end of the day it's a great, it is also a street that is in complete and total disrepair. So with essentially unsafe sidewalks for pedestrians. So you want to add anything? The councillor of the district or the councillor for engineering? Who wants to go first?
I'll go first, and I'll keep it short.
It is 9:27, just pointing that out.
As with all engineering projects, there are trade-offs. And we and the community and the administration collectively came to a choice that just captured all the trade-offs. And so we didn't get everything that we wanted, but we did get some things that we did. And that's just the nature of engineering projects.
And you couldn't keep sidewalks, two-way, and all of the parking that was there. We tried it, we squeezed it, we jiggled it every which way we could. This was as close as we could get to that. But we have, the triangles are protected, the magnolias will bloom. One, I think, needs to be
bloom again.
replanted, will bloom again. But we did have incredible participation at the public consultations at this, and I think between the three of us, we probably spoke to every single resident on the street. So that is added to our year of 2024, which you could say was a year of public consultations. So, Councillor Roux?
Yes, so as the councillor for the district, I'm disappointed I didn't get to meet you, Dr. Hunter. I assume you were at the public consultations, so I'm sorry we didn't get to meet. Yes, so I think the administration presented what needed to be done, and residents listened, and the city also listened, and this council, and I think that's why we hold public consultations, is to know what the residents are looking for and hoping for. And I think here, everybody compromised a little, and we got a pretty good final design. Everybody's not 100% happy, but everybody's happy enough. So everybody put water in their wine, but I think everybody can happily live with what we've got. And I was impressed with the city at how they did listen to the residents, and the residents were pretty much unanimous on this. So again, I'm sorry we didn't get a chance to talk, Dr. Hunter. I'm easy to reach, so don't hesitate to contact me if you'd like. Thank you.
Thank you, and stay tuned for the dates of when that construction will begin. Next question.
Prochaine question, Linda Tremblay. Bonjour, j'ai pris connaissance du dernier budget de la Ville et je suis très déçue. Nous allons encore augmenter la dette de la Ville. Le gouvernement Legault à Québec et surtout le gouvernement Trudeau à Ottawa augmente déjà la dette pour nos enfants et nos petits-enfants comme s'ils ne savaient pas compter. Je pensais que nous étions meilleurs que ça à Westmount. La chose courageuse à faire serait d'augmenter progressivement les taxes pour payer pour nos projets d'infrastructure. Les taux de taxes sont beaucoup plus élevés ailleurs à Montréal, alors il y a de la marge. C'est vrai qu'il faut réparer les rues et les routes et les parcs. Mais pourquoi demander à nos enfants de payer? Déjà, nous leur laissons un bilan environnemental très décevant.
Donc, merci beaucoup pour la question. Je pense que M. D'Amico va répondre avec quelques détails, mais vous avez raison, on a beaucoup de travail à faire. On a augmenté les taxes pendant des années. Des fois, c'était assez haut. Cette année, c'est un peu plus que l'inflation, mais c'est sûr qu'on a besoin de plus d'argent pour le moment pour faire les projets qu'il faut faire. Monsieur D'Amico, you want to...
Oui, merci, Madame la mairesse. Donc, Madame Tremblay, je vous remercie pour votre question. C'est sûr que si je peux vous donner des explications, le 3,15 %, c'est une recommandation du service des finances. Ce chiffre est un montant qui vient, si vous calculez, si vous enlevez la portion de réparation des travaux à faire, donc ça vient à 3,15 %. On voulait aussi garder notre engagement de ne pas augmenter les taxes beaucoup plus que l'inflation. Donc, on a tenu parole envers la population. C'est sûr que la dette, ce n'est pas quelque chose qui est agréable, mais malheureusement, nos coûts à nous sont beaucoup plus élevés que l'inflation, donc il n'y a pas d'autre façon que d'avoir une dette. J'espère d'avoir répondu à votre question.
Puis en comparaison à d'autres villes, on est dans une très bonne situation en termes de dette, mais c'est sûr que c'est pas facile de gérer tout le travail qu'on faut faire, puis avec l'argent qu'on a pour le moment. Donc, prochaine question.
From Lynn Verge, how will the City of Westmount make public the comments submitted on the Imagine Westmount Saudis online form for citizen participation?
Thank you, Ms. Verge, for your question. We will certainly be updating how and when all of the information and the next steps in the garnering of feedback will be from some of the proposals that people have seen. So that stay tuned for that.
Okay, from Judith Cachot, there has now been media, public meetings, and community information about the LeMay report. And abundance of folks have great concern about many aspects of the LeMay report. Why Then are the mayor and some councillors digging in and circling the wagons without seemingly listening, but surely knowing that there is an election for their role in November this year.
You are correct. There is an election on November 2nd of this year. I think everybody on council is well aware of that point. I wouldn't say that we are, well, I mean, circling the wagons, I don't know, but it's, we are definitely hearing from many aspects of the community and many differing views. We are committed to seeing this sector of the city be revitalized. We have seen the decline. We have witnessed the decline. I think all residents have witnessed the decline of the area. We know the current set of rules. We know that there has been no projects, there's been no advancement. So we're looking forward to seeing the feedback just as much as you do. But I do think, you know, what I've heard from residents and what we've heard from experts and what I think the majority of people on council feel that St. Catherine Street could have some densification, could have some height. What does that look like? How big is it? I don't have a number exactly to give you at this point, but it definitely needs to be revitalized. You want to add anything else to that? No? No, I think we've covered it. Next question.
From Diana Hernandez. Dear Council, Happy New Year. I am writing to kindly request a clear update regarding the timeline for implementing the enhanced surveillance system outlined by the city last year. To summarize the event leading to this request. In January 2025, I highlighted the vandalism at the back lane affecting the complex of 16 townhouses beside the old train station. In February 2024, your response mentioned plans for an IT analysis of the surveillance system with a 2-year timeframe for prioritizing surveillance improvement. In December 2024, our complex suffered its first break-in 25 years at 4838 St. Catherine West, further underscoring the urgency of these measures. Despite addressing similar concern as far back as 2010 and 2012, it took 12 years for a steel trash receptacle to be installed. Considering this history, could you please clarify if we should anticipate another year of waiting? A detailed plan or timeline would provide much needed reassurance to our community. Thank you.
Thank you for your question and your commentary. I don't have an answer directly for you tonight. I'd have to get more detail from the administration on what some of the next steps were, or what some of the next steps are going to be for some of the security around the train station.
From James Colton. On the Westmount website was the opportunity to comment on the LeMay report. After submitting my comments and learning about the replies of others, the submission were not tabled for public viewing. Recall that following one-line obituaries, condolences may be submitted and they are openly available. Why have comments from responders not been revealed? Does this lack of transparency presage the political status of the mayor and council member after the November 2nd election?
Thank you for your question. This one is different. It's not a survey, so it's an opportunity for you to submit your feedback, and your feedback. We'll take it under. Yeah, you can take this one.
Yeah.
We'll take it under advisement in terms of how we can improve any process going forward.
I think that the residents asking why they can't see, why you fill in a comment why you can't see it right away, and that's kind of the message board kind of function that they were expecting. This is not a message board, and on the other and the other point is there's no content moderation, so in the past report, when we were receiving comments, the comments were all digested, and there were some comments that had to be redacted because they were not suitable for public consumption. So, as part of this step, this is a survey, and so we are asking questions. In the same way, if somebody came up and surveyed you on the street, you don't get to see everybody else's answers in front. We don't want you to we want your answers. We don't want your reaction to somebody else's answers. So that's the object of this exercise. It's not a message board. But at some point, you will see the collection of the comments.
Yeah.
From Patty Gaimi, it's a question and a follow-up. So, in the op-ed in the Montreal Gazette regarding the Southeast sector redevelopment released on December 16, 2024, Westmount opposed the Montreal Children's Hospital redevelopment in 2017 due to concern about heritage, green space, and attracting young families. Why the change in position despite opposition from 2 previous mayors and other academics regarding the construction of high-rise towers? And the follow-up is, in a Montreal Gazette article released on January 12, 2025, Councillor Pearce said, Westmount administration have tweaked at the model and hope for better result. How does this administration know that the plan they have will be better than previous ones?
So this is a completely different project than what is at the children's site. And this is not, all, St. Catherine Street is different than Dorchester and the Tupper Lanes and the parking lots, and it has all different areas to it. It's not a homogeneous site, and those towers are significantly taller as well. And then I don't have that question. It was submitted live online. So I think she asked, how can this be different? Because it's not the same project at all. And the process that we're in is in a framework and garnering feedback from the community, which is what we are doing. But I think what's important is making sure that people understand the facts, the current situation. The situation that is currently existing on St. Catherine Street is untenable, and we have to address that. Surface parking lots are not the best use of public lands. We feel we need to address that. I think it was Councillor Pearce who told me that the parking lot at the Bureau en Gros, you have to go past the Jacques Cartier Bridge to find another one similar to that on St. Catherine Street. So it needs some revitalization, and with that, we have to look at different options. So do you want to comment on her comment on your interview in the Gazette? I can't remember what the specific ask was.
I don't have a copy of the question in front of me either. But just to say, what we're doing with the PPU is entirely different than what transpired across the border on the children's site. The children's site was a project application. We don't have a project application. We're doing a PPU.
Buildings.
We're doing a PPU, which we're looking at the sector. We're putting together a framework. Building applications will come at a later date, but that's not where we are. We are just at the at the higher level, sector level. That's inelegant.
Yeah,
but that's
with some key elements that we understand. We understand the heritage value of Dorchester. We understand the heritage value of Atwater Library. We understand that all of this sits on top of a metro, is next to a CEGEP, and is steps from downtown and a university. And those, it's the entrance to Westmount. We also understand we have an aging population and a housing crisis. So we have no shortage of challenging situations to deal with. We know that we are also in a climate crisis. And we know that planning cities well can help address some of those issues.
And just one last point is, the site of the Children's Hospital is 50% higher than what's being proposed in our PPU.
Yeah.
50%.
Mm-hmm.
From Henry Olders, as a systematic survey of real estate developers been done to learn why they have initiated development project in the southwest sector under the current zoning regulation? If yes, how many developers were surveyed, and will a summary of the result be made available?
I think you mean southeast, not
it was
south.
southwest.
He wrote southwest, so I will presume the southeast, but if it's the southwest, no survey has been done. If it's the southeast, we have not surveyed the developers in the way that you are asking, no. They've been welcome to participate, and I think some of the owners of those properties were, I think somebody mentioned before that they were sitting at a table, one of the residents here. Jessica Winton was mentioning that she sat at a table with one of the owners of the properties. So I know that they were participating in the public consultations.
2 questions from Brian Puddington. First one is the PAC on board with the proposed plan for the southeast sector? What analysis and/or comment has PAC made about the proposal? And the second one is, why are the comments submitted on the Westmount website pertaining to the southeast sector being kept private and not shared online?
Councillor Peart had just addressed that issue, so I don't know if you want to address it again just for the record, but it is not there is some privacy element. We want to hear what people have to say. There is an element also of people's expectation of some privacy, and it is not a survey, and PAC will have an in-depth review of the LeMay report. I'm not sure how we would make, or if we make, I'm not sure what the next steps with that is, but yes, they will be looking at it, and I know we had mentioned Clément Demers before. Clément Demers is a member of the PAC.
And the last one?
Does anyone else want to add to this? Okay.
Okay, Fabrice Well. Oh, you wanted to go?
Sorry, I didn't want to add, actually, I was just hoping, hold on, I know, I understand, but I'm hearing a pattern here, and I think there may be some fundamental misunderstanding about the sequencing of this project, like what are we doing here, and then what comes afterwards with respect to the application process by which individual projects would be brought forward, reviewed, commented upon by the PAC, et cetera, when and if one of those projects were to come forward. And I was just wondering if maybe Councillor Peart could give us like 30 seconds of like, what are we doing now? What comes in the future? Because I think there's a lot of conflation and a feeling like someone is waiting at the gate for an approval to build a 20-story building, which is clearly not the case.
No, so the PPU is a sector-wide framework guiding future development. Its purpose is to define a high-level vision and guideline for the sector. The sector is not, there are different elements to the southeast, as we said. You know, Dorchester is different than St. Catherine Street. It will harmonize the city's planning regulations and zoning with the updated framework. The PPU is not a project approval. So when PAC looks at this, they look at it as, you know, not all the members of PAC are urban planning experts. They are architects, or they are there with some professional designation, but they have an interest and a different set of expertise than, you know, sometimes maybe the general public. So they too are looking at it. Many of the PAC members have been involved in all of the public consultation as well as citizens too, and as they kind of wear two hats when they come to those things, as members of the PAC and as citizens. And the grueling, like the PAC process is a grueling process. It's in terms of a new build of a building of design excellence, and we would expect that. We would expect design excellence for anything that is built there. I don't know if you want to add any steps to that. So there is no permit being, but it is a framework and a vision for the area. And clearly one of the hot topics, or one of the point that is getting people very concerned, is the corner, or the people that have attended tonight, the corner building of St. Catherine and Atwater. So we have heard that. We've also heard all sorts of different opinions. So you want to add anything to that? Okay, next question.
The last one?
The last question.
From Fabrice Well. Hello again, everyone. How much did the Claremont Triangle pilot project cost overall, including time spent by Westmount personnel, as well as the contractor work to paint and repaint the roads and return to current situation.
So I think Councillor Peart, Councillor Peart answered the question in terms of what the contract was awarded for, and that's a fraction, a small amount considering the overall project, and whether or not, none of the proposals are accepted or some, there was a lot of information that was garnered out of there. I can assure you, we heard your feedback. We heard your disdain for the project, I guess would be a good way to put it. And I cannot give you a number for the amount of time that council or the administration spent on answering questions in council meetings, responding to emails, discussions on the street, whatever it may be. I can't give you that number. But I'm pretty sure we work for below minimum wage. But anyways, when you lay it out by the hour, just kidding, I shouldn't have said that. It's late. Is that it? That's it? Are there any other further questions in the room? No? Bonsoir, merci. See you in February. If you need to contact us, you know how to do that. The meeting is adjourned.